adorable.
All right, everybody. Oh, I want my robe on. Oh, let me go grab it for you. I've got to have my robe on.
You need your robe.
We got everything else ready for you except my robe.
Do you need the pants?
No.
Okay.
But probably a little AC would be nice because as soon as I put that robe on, my menopause kicks into high gear. I'm gonna step. Just there's no sound. Hold on, we'll fix the sound and I'll be right back.
The microphone is working.
I'm gonna take my shawl off. Just put this on real quick.
No, they said they hear us.
Okay,
They
good.
can hear us.
So Alexis is gonna chat with you for a second while I just take my shawl off and get my my robe on.
Athena's undressing.
Happy graduation day.
She's addressing and undressing and redressing, and it's
And
graduation. And congratulations to each of you. Right, get it?
Did you say congratulations?
I did. I said congratulations. But congratulations as well. They can hear us. Good. I see that our little thing is working, so that's good.
Okay.
Well, we're really excited to be here with you today. I'll make sure that she gets that when she needs it, Rachel. Thank you.
All right, here we go. I had to have my robe on. It's graduation day, everybody. And I sincerely want to say to you, heart and soul, how proud I am of you today. Truly. This has been a year in the making.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Soul Shift has been alive for 4 years, so some of you are celebrating a 4-year graduation today. And, you know, this used to be my my actual responsibility was to hood doctoral students and to pronounce them graduates, and so it is very exciting to be able to do this for you today. I know you saw me in this already for Crystal Masters, but I do definitely want to wear it again for Soul Shift tonight, and I will put my stole on at the end of class tonight to officially pronounce you graduates of the program. I hope you've learned a lot, and what's really cool about tonight's class is it's kind of a recap. In the sense that we're going to go back to all of the psychic and intuitive gifts that we've covered this year, and we are going to integrate them now. We're going to come full circle and really talk about some practical tips and techniques for how to keep the magic of Soul Shift 2022 alive. So, but I do want you guys to take a moment and just really breathe in. Like, let's take a breath together. The final session of Soul Shift has begun. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud of you. I always tell you this, but it's really true. It's really true. I don't teach you any differently than I used to teach my master's degree students and my undergraduate students and my doctoral students. I don't water down my curriculum. I don't consider this any less rigorous or stringent in any way than the way I've taught my university classes for decades, right? Is Rachel okay?
I think she's making sure
Okay.
that's good.
Okay. She's trying to make sure
I just
we're
saw
locked
like
in
a little
secure.
arm, yeah.
I know, I'm like, I see Rachel's arm, but I don't see anything else. But I really don't teach this any different way than I've taught university all these years. And so for some of you, you know, this may be your first graduation. And I take that very, very seriously. I think graduations are important. I think that these occasions for you to celebrate your achievement are some of the most important moments in life, right? And so I just want to bow to you.
Me too.
And Alexis is bowing to you as well. All of us here at Team SG, I'm sure Karen is bowing to you from where she is too, because she's been your ally and your partner and your support system as well. And all three of us have really circled around you this year. And I'll tell you something, it's not just us. A lot of members of Team SG have really put their heart and soul into everything for you this year. You know, you getting your kits despite global shipping and production challenges. I also want to give a huge shout out to Estella in our design department and Brooke in our production department, and I want to give a huge shout out to Sabrina in support and her whole team.
Oh my gosh.
What would we do without everybody, you know? And so it isn't, I always will be the first to tell you, I'm the one who gets to sit in front of you and I get to laugh with you and teach you and share all these fun moments like direct on the camera. But it truly is not a one-woman show. It is a many-person show.
It's an everyone show. It's a team show.
It's a team show.
It's an ensemble cast.
It's an ensemble.
It's an ensemble cast.
And so we all love you. We're all cheering you on, and we're all celebrating you. You will, before too long, have 4 certificates on your wall for completing Soul Shift this year. I do want to remind you that if you have not already, if you're in Soul Shift already, your membership is going to roll over to Living Magic, and we hope that you will enjoy the new program too. And I am really excited about that program as well, but I don't want to start talking about that tonight. I will finish tonight's class talking about Living Magic and where we're going next. But I just want this few hours with you just to revel in the beauty, really, and the magic that we've created together this year, because it's sacred. And when we set out to create this year for you, we knew it was a little challenging, because most people think when they think psychic and intuitive gifts, they think clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairalience, it's like clair. And I've never felt that way. And when we all sat down this time last year, to talk about what to do this year, we were all like, no, there's so many other ways of knowing, and one of the things I love about our society right now is that we celebrate this term called neurodivergence. Is everybody familiar with what neurodivergence means? It's not a term that even when I was in graduate school, which was now 100 years ago, I can't believe my PhD is 20 years old, but I have a PhD in education, and we were not using the term neurodivergence at the time. But now we use it, and I'm not suggesting that psychic gifts make you neurodivergent, but what I am saying is neurodivergence has allowed us to celebrate that there are many ways of knowing, many ways of understanding, and many ways of receiving and downloading and channeling and engaging with information and insight. And it's a whole new way of really thinking about the fact that you can't rubber stamp us. You know what I mean? When I say I understand something, it's probably because I understand your words, but I'm also watching your body language. I'm also probably connecting with you on 4 or 5 different dimensional levels. I'm sensing your energy. If I'm close enough to you, I'm actually in your toroidal field, right? And so there's so many different ways that we access and enjoy and channel and receive information. And I love that this year we celebrated that in terms of how it impacts us psychically and intuitively. So Karen is here to answer all of your technical questions, because you know me, I am not the best source of technical information. Half the time I screw it up. So what I've learned to do is just shut the fuck up and leave it to Karen and Alexis, who are smarter than me on the technical stuff. So when it comes to certificates and stuff, if you don't see me answering your questions directly, it's just because that's not my gift. My gift is to focus on the teaching, but that's exactly why they're there. So cheers. We cannot be rubber stamped. So tonight we have 3 tasks before us. One is we are going to finally adhere our gemstone trillions of the year that we've been collecting, right, to our double charm wand. It doesn't seem like a million years ago that we first started working with these wands. I mean, it doesn't even seem like a year ago. But if you've been getting your tools all year, you have probably been waiting for this moment to connect all your trillions together. We are going to be doing our honey jar ceremony this year, and as you remember, we charged during our Crystalpedia or Crystal Masters. I'm getting ahead of myself. Our Crystal Masters graduation, we charged this little double charm with every person who is in Crystal Masters this year, and so which includes all of you. So when we put this into the jar tonight, we are honoring the achievements of everybody in Soul Shift and everybody in Crystal Masters as we add that this year. Then our third order of business tonight, darling, is that we are going to go through this worksheet, which is your final manifestation blueprint for 2022. And I'm giving you this heads up so that if you want to go and gather things, or you're like, oh, I forgot about my stones, or I forgot about my wand, you can go and grab those, and you're not rushing around, because I want you to be able to relax and enjoy tonight's ceremony and all the festivities. And then tonight we're going to go through and refresh on the whole year's set of psychic gifts and have a chit chat about the integration of those. And then the last thing we're going to do is rabbit hole for as long as we have, because it's been one of my favorite parts of this year has been to rabbit hole with you. So yeah, and if you're not feeling well tonight, just sending you a whole bunch of love and get well soon vibes, and you're going to feel better before you know it. And we're really happy to have you here with us. Are you ready for tonight?
I'm not ready. I can't believe it.
Alexis is like, I'm not ready. I know it all. You know what's really weird is the holidays snuck up on me. It did not feel like the holidays, and now that the holidays are over, like I'm having to accept that it's the new year. I kind of feel like I've been living this whole year a little bit behind.
Me too. Yeah.
So yeah, Alexis and I both feel like, wait a minute, what do you mean it's New Year's Eve this weekend? But it is, and we are here. And we are here, and we are here. And whether you're continuing on with Living Magic or this is your last class, I just want to celebrate with you. And who knows, you may change your mind about what you are deciding to do. So we'll talk about the new program at the end of our time together. There is no rabbit hole with Living Magic, but Living Magic is its own rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
The practicing magic session is going to be your version of rabbit hole. And then you know what's really cool for next year? And I didn't do this year, but I am doing it in 2023. I will be live every week in our Living Magic Facebook group, rabbit holing with you. And at first our team talked about, should we schedule it? Like, should it be every Tuesday at 2 p.m. or something? And I said, no. I'm going to do it intuitively. And every week I'm either going to read to you a poem or a chapter of a book. I might teach you a new energy work technique, because, I work with my own teachers. And I'm going to bring you what I'm calling living questions. So this is going to be in addition to your 4 classes, in addition to Elder Council, in addition to the bonus class with Deepak Chopra. There's going to be private you and me time in our Living Magic Facebook group to bring these living questions to you and just to dialogue with you. And it's going to be at all different times. It'll be recorded, so if you miss it, you can go back and watch it later. And I think it's going to be really fun to have, if you think of it over the course of the year, it's going to be 48 additional live sessions that aren't even really included in your membership. And super casual. It might just be me in my pajamas sitting in my garden. I'm not going to pre-stage it. I'm not going to get super dressed up for you. But it's really just going to be a chance for us to connect casually. And so I'm going to be reading your poetry or teaching you a new energy technique, something like that every week in addition to our classes. And so you can look forward to that. So you want to make sure that when the time comes, that you join the Living Magic Facebook group, because that's where that's going to be happening. So you're actually getting a little bit more for your money this year. But I don't mind that. Like, why not get more for your money? I don't like getting less for my money. Why not get more? And then some of the Living Magic sessions are just going to be readings. Probably once a month, I'll just do readings, which is going to be kind of cool too. And it'll be impromptu. I'll give you a little bit of a heads up, like, hey, in an hour I'm going live, and then you'll be able to watch it later if you miss it. So it's going to be a really cool experience. So if you've wanted to be a little bit more up close and personal with me, if you've wanted a little bit more of a practical curriculum, I think next year is going to be exciting for all of us. Okay, so with no further ado, I'm going to start with our manifestation blueprint, if that's okay, because I like to start with the practical and then get to the energetic. It helps me focus a little bit more too. And I am going to have some reading lists for this year. There's some really great books that I'm reading right now, and again, I don't expect you to read novels, but I might bring you a couple of book recommendations, and then we read a section together. You know what I mean? And if you like the book, you go get it. If you don't like the book, then you got what you got, kind of thing. So I am a reader. I know it's boring. If I have my choice between a TV show and a book, I'm going to read. Alexis is the same way, so.
Oh, I love reading.
She's a reader.
I'm a reader.
That one. So anyway, yes. And your manifestation blueprint is in your online classroom.
Yes.
So get ready, buckle up, let's do the thing. You ready? And again, Karen's here if you're having any technical questions finding it, or you can only find one page of it, like Mara's having a challenge, so she's right there to help you, and she will take care of it for you.
So the online classroom only has the newest page of the manifestation blueprint.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's only one page.
Oh, okay.
because we already went. You guys should already have the other two in your materials.
Is there a way to get them the other two in case they can't find it?
Sure.
I'm going to let them sort that out.
Sure.
We'll figure it out. I don't know. I'm one of those people who like never has my things together.
Well, not. I guess since you're going over it in class, my thought process was not everyone in the December classroom was here for the other two manifestation blueprints.
That's true.
But I can link to those classrooms.
Yeah, she'll
if
link to
that's
the other
helpful.
classrooms. Yeah, let's do that. And that
Okay.
way, if you missed it, but you know, and you were in those months, then you can go back and she'll give you the links. Okay. Now, and Laura, if you're confused, let us know, darling. Happy to help you. We're here for it. Okay. So as it says on the first page, I'll just remind you. I mean, I guess, is it okay to go through all of them if some of people weren't in the...
Yeah, I think just like, I think you should go over them. It's part of the class. I just, written content, that was my thought process. But if you want me to add it to the classroom, I can go ahead and do that. It's.
I'm going to go through all of them now, so hopefully that's okay with everybody,
Yeah.
just because I want to make sure that...
I'll find the other two and I'll just put them in the
We'll figure it
classroom.
out.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
explaining my thought process.
Yeah, no. It makes sense, but then I'm like, well, should I, anyway, we're good.
No, I think you should, for sure.
Okay, so going back to the beginning, I'm going to read to you a little bit, okay? If you recall the Hermetic principles which govern and explain, which is, of course, Atlantean wisdom, I've shared this with you before, how the universe of energy operates, the first is the principle of mentalism, the all is mind. Everything we create in our lives begins as a thought or a desire. Our thoughts are powered and influenced by our intuition, and we all manifest by accessing intuitive information and then channeling that wisdom into physical form. Let me translate that from Athena speak, to what this actually means. I believe, and this has been what I've taught you this year, that when we manifest something, everything begins with a vision. My mom used to say, rest her spirit, that every reality begins with a dream, right? And if you look at most of the things in your life that you've really achieved, right? Like I even think of Sage Goddess, it was a dream. Like, hey, is that possible? And my dream at the time was just to gather people around a computer screen to celebrate the full moon. I mean, I didn't think it would become what it is today. It's beautiful. It's become something, things take on a life of their own. But this reality of Sage Goddess began as a dream, right? So even my mom in her simpler wisdom that wasn't hermetic, right? She wouldn't have said, oh, that's hermetic wisdom. But in her simple way, she was still describing hermeticism, which is to manifest something. And by the way, I'm working with your worksheets, so if anybody needs to know where I'm at, I'm on your manifestation worksheets right now. Everything in your life at some point begins as a vision or an intention, right? A desire. And then the desire crystallizes in a vision, and then the vision creates a vibration, and the vibration attracts energy and resources to itself. This is my theory, right? And it's true, even Tanya said, even we begin as a dream, right? Somebody had to hit it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, hopefully it was a dream when somebody hit it to create you. We'll never know, but my parents certainly didn't give me a lot of information about what that was like, but I hope it was dreamy. But in any case, and even if you don't have your worksheets, I would just love you to hang with me and listen, because I'll take you through the content, and then the team takes notes for you, and you'll have your worksheets later. So just hang tight. I want you to relax and enjoy tonight, okay? And I appreciate that, Dr. Chris. I really do. So we create through our vision. Our vision is a function of our intuition. Our vision, and remember, intuition is literally comes from the Latin, right? It is the teaching from within. Tuition is teaching, it's learning, right? And in means inside. So it's our inner learning that leads to that vision, that leads to that. Every major philosopher, and I don't care whether you're looking at Plato and Socrates or Descartes, or you're looking even at Rumi, right, and Khalil Gibran, and some of the other more esoteric theorists, everyone says the same thing, right? Your dreams are given to you. They're like little seeds that get planted in you. Why do you have the dream you have? There's a reason for it, right? And that's why I'm always pushing you a little bit. You know, it's like, I think a good teacher inspires you, but also kind of nudges you a little bit too. If there's a dream on your heart, you kind of have to follow it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, and sometimes it's very impractical, and sometimes it requires things that you're like, where am I going to get that, or how am I going to have that? You kind of have to let go of the how and the when, and just trust the what of it, which is, I've got this dream on my heart. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to happen, and especially when it's impractical, that's when you really have to surrender the where, when, what, how part of it, right? So it's really cool, right? So that's where we begin, and that's where this year really began, is that everything that you will create in your lifetime begins with a vision, and that vision is a function of your intuition. And your intuition, from my perspective, is divergent. I understand and receive information maybe differently than you do. Some people are so clairvoyant. Everything is crystal clear in their vision. It's not my strongest gift. I mean, I am clairvoyant, and sometimes I can see things. But I'm much more clairaudient, clairsentient. I'm clairgustant and alient. I can smell it. I can feel it. You know, I can hear it, right? And then I also have these other gifts of psychometry. I can touch something and kind of go back in time. Even some of the gifts and tools I taught you, like brain spotting, remember shadow spotting in our retreat this year, is another way of knowing. It's like when my gaze kind of falls off to one side or in a different direction, sometimes it's because I'm channeling, right? Information is coming through from sources that I can't see, but it's still information that needs to be integrated and received and worked with in some way, right? So we learned 12 intuitive gifts this year, and my challenge to you was to figure out which ones were the strongest for you, because everybody has a different, we're all on a spectrum, right? So it's not like you're either clairaudient or you're not clairaudient, but you could be a little clairaudient. It's not like being pregnant, where you either are or you aren't. You can be a little bit pregnant with some of these psychic gifts, right? Like you can be a little bit clairaudient, but not all the way clairaudient, right? And so we went through all of these gifts this year, and I do want to go through the 12 and just remind you, and then see if you have questions too about these that I can answer for you. Keep in mind that there was a month for each of these, and each month we did a Q&A on each of them. So I won't necessarily be going back to boil the ocean on each of these again, but it might be an invitation for you to go back to that particular month and revisit the curriculum from that month. If you missed a month, you may want to go back and pick it up. If you're like, oh, I didn't even know she did a whole month on discernment. I joined in March and I never even knew that. And here we go. And Karen and Alexis can help you find those additional months. Keep in mind, you do have to have registered for all 12 months to get your certificate. So if you're getting your certificate, it means you do have access to that curriculum already.
And you guys were sent links and passwords to all of the classrooms.
Yeah, so you have all of that.
You should have that.
Yeah.
I just added the other two blueprints to the classroom.
And I just got banged.
I think you got Celsius.
Oh, I got Celsius. I think it's a peachy vibe, peachy keen, something like that. It's yummy. Okay. Protein, or not protein, but energy drinks at this time of day are kind of a saving grace. It either has to be that or chai at my age to like pick me up a little bit. Okay, so these are all the 12. And like I said, you have to go with my theory, and I'll tell you the months. My theory is that the way these connect to manifestation is your strongest gifts are going to be also your strongest manifestation tools. I'm extremely clairsentient. I can feel when something's coming. I can feel when something's happening. I can feel when something's right. I can also feel when something's wrong and off. And so what that has allowed me to do is, like, for example, I was offered a job one time and everybody thought I was crazy for not taking it. I knew it was not the right job for me. And it paid well, and it was exciting and all the things, and I absolutely knew it was going to take me off course. And to the point where I think if I'd taken it, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you today, because it would have just led me down a whole different thing, and I knew it. So we manifest what we need, and we avoid what will set us back by paying attention to and cultivating and developing these gifts, right? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say in your life is no to something, even when everybody in your life is like, are you crazy not to do that, right? Okay, so number 1 was January, And that was the gift of discernment. Remember that? Long, long ago. It's been 83 years. What was the Titanic quote? 83 years ago. It feels like that. We talked about discernment. And I really wanted to start with discernment this year because my grandmother, who was a minister, as you know, my mom's mother, still one of my most important spiritual teachers, always said the same thing, which was, if you only get one gift, because she called them the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And she said, the Holy Spirit has many gifts to give you, a long time ago. But she said, even if the Holy Spirit only gives you this one gift, it's really the only one you need, because all the other gifts pale in comparison to discernment. Discernment is understanding whether something is right for you, and also seeing beyond temporality, seeing beyond time, seeing beyond the role. We talked about see the soul and not the role, right? You know, my mom's best advice for relationships, especially when you're having trouble, was treat your coworker or your spouse or the shitty lady at the grocery store, pretend like they're a child. Pretend like they're 3, 4, 5 years old, and respond to them that way. You'll be gentler. You'll have more compassion for them. You know, remember that whoever this is you're having conflict with is someone's child, right? And it did change the way I looked at relationships. And see the soul, not the role, was for me one of the most profound discussions that we had. And we talked in very practical terms about how to do this, right? It's like layers of an onion. We get so hard and fast about, like, that's what this person is to me, you know, they're just my partner, or they're just my boss, or they're just my sister, or they're just my niece, or they're just my son, or whatever. And we can't peel the layers away to recognize they're actually just a soul, and they're in your web, and they're here for a reason. They wouldn't be here if they weren't teaching you something. And it's really important to be able to see people not just for who they are, because we always say that, see people for who they are, right? And even Oprah, like, I love Oprah, but you know, her whole thing, like, people tell you who they are, you should listen to them. I think so too, but people also don't always know who they are. I mean, can I get an amen? People are going to tell you who they think they are based on what they've been told and how they've been conditioned. So sometimes even people's self-representations is not fully accurate or representative of the totality of who they are. You know, it's like people want to be understood, and sometimes they need you to see underneath the hood a little bit to something that's deeper, something that's more profound, right? So I don't even go with that wisdom of, like, when people show you who they are, believe them or whatever. Well, they're going to tell you who they are from their level of conscious awareness, which may be highly compromised and incredibly inaccurate. So the best thing you can do, I think, as an intuitive person, right, is to see people for who they've always been, which is different from who they are now, right? This is who you're seeing in front of you is an avatar of my soul, right? This is who I showed up as to this party, but this isn't always who I've been. And so if we allow people to show us who we've always been and not just who we are today. I like the quote, and I think there's wisdom in it, but I do think we also have to see beyond that some of us are thousands of years old. You know, I'm 49 in this go round. So this isn't all of who I am. This is one facet of my diamond. This is one aspect of my totality, right? So some of the ways we can do this, we've just even talked about, right? Like, see people in their younger, you know, imagine them younger, imagine them older. Allow sex and gender to fall away, right? Like, there's an incredible video I was watching where the teacher was talking about how woman isn't woman, man isn't man. Like, we've attached ourselves to these terms and these descriptions and these definitions because it makes it easier. It's easier to interact with each other when we can categorize each other, keeps it simpler, than if we see each other as more complex beings, if that makes sense. So if you have the gift of discernment, then you probably have kind of right place, right time energy. You know if something's right or wrong for you, and sometimes you're not sure how you know, but you just know. And so you don't tend to step in a lot of landmines that other people step in, right? You're pretty good at reading people. My grandmother called it judge of character, right? It's like a person's doing, and this is why too, like I used to have students who would be in my classes at university. And at one university where I taught at, we would get a memo if the student had previous challenges, academic integrity violations or challenges, right? We would get a little memo like, hey, Joe Bob's in your class and Joe Bob did X, Y, and Z and you should probably know about these things, or Joe Bob cheated on, whatever. We would get a little memo. Probably to, so that we would be aware. I intentionally chose not to read those. Now you can say, well, why? I absolutely believe that people are not the sum total of what they've done up until today. I've seen too much human development. I've seen too much evolution and transformation. I've seen people wanting to be a bigger, better, stronger, healthier version of themselves to know that I don't really need to read about Joe Bob and how he cheated last semester. Because half the time when I did read those things, I would find out later Joe Bob's mom died. And I'm not making excuses for people, but like, shit happens in people's lives. If all they are is the little memo that we get that says, oh, X, Y, and Z, then now I'm going to impose that onto Joe Bob and expect Joe Bob to do the same thing in my class, right? So I would deliberately go, oh, thank you for these memos, and then just basically throw them in the trash. The same thing with jobs and resumes. I'm not really a fan of resumes. When I'm interviewing people, I don't really want to see your resume. And that may sound ridiculous, but at the end of the day, I can teach you pretty much whatever you need to know in any given job if I know what I need you to do. What I can't teach you is how to be a decent human being and like have a good work ethic and be somebody that can do the thing and show up. You know what I mean? Like those are things I can't teach. But if it says, well, Joe Bob, is an excellent cook. Like, okay, great. Well, I can teach Joe Bob to cook, but is Joe Bob actually going to be part of our team? And so I'm sharing all of this with you because I think sometimes in society we're so quick to be a resume or be a sum total of who we were up until today, or just be reduced down to some of these like descriptions and these technical details and facets and things that at the end of the day really don't define who we are. So that's see the soul, not the role. If you have the gift of discernment, you know when someone is meant to be with you or work with you or support you or be in a relationship with you, and it really doesn't matter where they've been and what they've done unless you're going to use that information to categorize them, which may lead you to not fully understanding who they are. Psychometry was February. Psychometry is the gift of the energy of objects and sensing the alignment of those objects to you and your energy, but also to someone you might be reading for, right? So I think this is really important too, because objects carry energy. So if you have this gift, you might be able to receive the energy of a history of a place or a space through something that's there. Trees do this for me. So sometimes if when I move to a new city, I always go to the oldest trees because I want to feel the energy of that place. I remember when I moved to the Bay Area, and I really didn't want to move to the Bay Area, kind of had to, and I wasn't super happy about it. But I went to the Redwood Forest and I fell in love, and it allowed me to connect with the energy of the place from a really deep, anchored, historical, beautiful, natural perspective that shifted my view of the place and my relationship to it.
What are our oldest trees here?
That's a really good question. I'm actually not sure in LA what the oldest ones are.
Yeah, that's a good. That would be a really fun SG field trip because that sounds really nice.
There are some really old trees up in Palos Verdes where I live, for sure.
Palos Verdes, Wilson Park has some really old big.
They
trees
do. Wilson Park does too.
I love the energy of Wilson Park.
Yeah, and it always hurts me so to my core when trees get cut down because it's just like you're taking the history of the place.
They would have lived longer than us.
They want to live longer with us than us, right? And then also psychometry for me is you sense the needs of others when you create things for them to use, right? Because it's like, and that has happened for me 1,000 times with SG where I'm like, I'm making an incense and I'm not quite sure why I'm making it, but I just know it's needed, and then it goes to the right people and they use it and it opens a doorway, right? So even in a retail environment, you might find psychometry is something where you are creating something tactile that someone's going to touch and they're going to feel the energy of that intention, and it's going to open a doorway for them, right? It can also be just touching, I kept my mom's shirt when you go into the hospital, they put your stuff in those weird bags with like you label them or whatever, and it's got like a plastic handle. I kept my mom's shirt that she was wearing when she was admitted before she passed away, and I put it in a Ziploc bag, which I'm so glad I did, because one of you advised me to do that, and it still smells like her. It's actually the only thing I have left that really truly smells like her. And when I need her, she's there, because I literally just open the Ziploc or I can touch that shirt, and it's a little bit of her life force, again, and she's not in the shirt, but you know what I mean? But that's psychometry. It's something that she was touching, and it was near her skin, and it allows me to feel her energy there too. In March, we moved on to energetic blockage removal, and this was one of the gifts that caught some of you by surprise, but in a good way, I hope, and I think, because the gift of being able to see where energy is blocked and to work around it, to move it through, is a gift. Not everybody has that gift. It's a highly shamanic gift. Shaman are very good. My shaman calls himself Roto-Rooter. They're very good at like unclogging your pipes, which is actually the key to healing, right? Like all disease, all pain, all illness is energy that gets stuck in the pipage, right? So the key is you got to move the energy through. So if you have this gift, what we talked about is you're good at figuring out where the blockages are, using scanner crystals like I taught you, using Vogels, using pendulums, right, to douse the body and figure out where the blockages are. You're good at understanding the obstacles between you and what you want and how to overcome those. And you know how to move and release stuck energy to open new pathways to new dreams, right? So yeah, and a lot of you who are coaches, right, and I some people don't like the word coach, but I really do. And a lot of my students become coaches. I think of it, I like the word advisor a lot, but I think coach is a great word. And I don't think it has any negative connotations to it. I just tend to think of myself more as an advisor or a teacher. But the idea of coaching is that you are training people in a skill or a set of skills that they don't have yet or that aren't strong enough yet to support them on the path they want to follow, right? And so your job as a coach is to strengthen those skills and those capacities so that they can reach new levels of success, right? I think we share as whether you're an advisor or a teacher or a coach, that's our job, right? And so the technical term was energetic blockage removal. Sherry D is what we called this, right? This was number 3, Marlene, so this was March. Some people are just really good at this, and they're good at kind of getting to the core of it. And I actually, I have one teacher who's really good at calling bullshit too. Like, she'll say, well, what do you think the blockage is? And I'll say, well, X, Y, and Z. And she'll go, nope. No, it's not. It's A, B, and Z. And then I'll go, oh. And she's like, no, A, B, and C is under X, Y, and Z. It's just that X, Y, and Z is easier. So, and that's just calling BS, because I'll go, oh, I'm totally ready to work on X, Y, and Z. And she's like, yeah, but you aren't ready to work on A, B, and C. You will be, but, don't pretend like it's, the shell when it's actually the meat under the shell that you need to be addressing, right? Okay, and then in April, we moved to psychocartography. This was inspired by one of my teachers from about, it's got to be 7 or 8 years ago now. He called himself a psychocartographer. And he was really gifted he traveled the whole world. I don't think there's a place on this map or this globe that he hasn't been to, sincerely. He's one of those people where it's like, have you been there? Yeah. Have you been there? Have you been there? Yeah, there was just never anywhere I asked. But he's really good at sensing the land and being able to understand what it is from the land or that he's supposed to receive or what he's supposed to give back to the land. And I do think that's a really important psychic gift too. You can also use astrocartography, which I taught you that month too, and we actually mapped your astrocartography. If you missed that class, there's websites where you can go and look at that too, to find where your personal power centers are by planet, right? And that was an interesting one for people too, because they'll be like, oh my God, turns out Cairo is like a major power center for me, but I haven't been there, or whatever it is for you, and then you can kind of put those on your bucket list. This is also somebody who's really attuned to ley lines and vortex points. When I go to Tucson, which I will be there in a month, right? A little less than a month now.
I was about to say less than a month.
I'm heading out. I'm going twice. So my first trip out is earlier January, and then my official trip with the whole team is a little bit later. But I have a meeting to go to first. with a special person. So I'm going a little bit early with one of my team members. But anyway, when I go to Tucson, my experience is always different. I tend to like it more than other people do. Well, why is that? Well, Tucson is a caldera. It's a vortex. And it actually represents the harmonizing of the 4 elements that a lot of people are not aware of. And so I never want to leave when it's time to go, whereas most of the team is like, all right, well, bye. Because Tucson isn't like a super exciting city. It's got pretty good food. I'm a foodie, so if there's good food, I'm always going to be happy there. But the main reason I don't want to leave it is because there's an energy there that vibrates in my soul, and I feel connected to it, and I want more of it, and I don't like it when I have to leave, and then I get excited when I get to go back. Like, I'm super stoked that I have 2 trips this year. So anyway, that's psychocartography, is just really feeling connected to the land. And you might feel it. There's some proper vortex places, and then there's what I call secondary vortex locations, like right here where Alexis and I are, in a place called... it's between Palos Verdes and Redondo Beach. There's a vortex between Redondo Beach and what we call Rat Beach, which is where all the kids, when I was in school, went to make out. But there's actually a vortex place, and the water kind of whirlpools in the ocean differently there. It's a very unique spot. And so you'll become an expert if you have this gift at kind of identifying not just the primary vortex locations, but the secondary vortex locations too. So that was April. And then in May, we went into clairsentience, and that's one of my primary psychic gifts. A lot of you have it too. We feel deeply, and this results in heavy empathic capacity, which I always say is the greatest blessing and the greatest challenge in my life, right? It's such a blessing that I can feel you so deeply. It's also a challenge because it means I have to have really great boundaries. I always say I'm not meant to walk into Burger King and understand that the guy who's, I'm paying for my fries is, being cheated on, or like I don't need to go to Trader Joe's and understand the, exactly what's happening with the woman behind me in line who's holding like sugar snap peas and like is crying, and like I can't live my life that way, right? So those of us with high clairsentient capacity are feeling it. We're like antenna and we're just feeling it all the time. And we walk around until we figure out what's going on. We walk around going, are you okay? Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? And it's like, we don't realize that we're just in the middle of that clairsentient kind of pipeline. And it 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with us, which gives us permission to hone that gift and use it with intention and in specific contexts, rather than at Burger King and Trader Joe's, which is not why you're on the planet. So we talked a lot about boundary setting in that class too. We receive intuitive messages through our feelings, and we also can feel what people are feeling before they share it, right? Yeah, there is, Bonnie, there is something directly out into the ocean from where I am. And that's the vortex I was telling you about, because my house faces that pipeline vortex there. Okay, it was actually a really great story. When I was very young, my parents' house is just 2 or 3 streets over from where I live now. And my dad, I may have told you this already, my dad, we moved there when I was like 5-6 years old. And my mom wanted my dad to go to this estate sale. And it was one of the first families ever to live in the area. Some of you might remember this story. It still kind of haunts me in a way, because they had all of these artifacts that had been dug up on the beaches under the cliffs down from where my house is now, and they were all shamanic tools. I mean, they had drums that they dug up and ceremonial vessels and knives, and I mean, just my dad said he walked in and everything was like $20 for this and $30 for that, and he said it was weird because you could tell these things were, my dad is not as clairsentient as I am, but he's like, you could tell these things were like sacred, and they were just being sold. And he said some of them I kept remember saying to your mom, I think these things belong in like a museum. Why are they selling these things? But he didn't buy anything. And then he's like, now I regret it because you do what you do, and I don't know, maybe I could have gotten you a drum or something. And I'm like, Dad, I'm probably better off without some of those things. Who knows what the energy was, right? But a lot of them were shamanic tools and things that had been unearthed from the cliffs below where these people lived, right? So yeah, I'm kind of glad in a way I don't have any of that. Anyway, so then in June we went to being a transition guide. And so this is another gift that some of you were like, is that a psychic gift? And we have different names for it in our culture, right? We call people who are death doulas, right? People who help people transition and cross over from life to the afterlife. We call them psychopomps, right? These are people who are good at standing between the two worlds. I'm good at it. I don't like to do it. I've done it multiple times with different people. It's a very strange thing to be with someone as they're dying and they're half here and half there and trying to decide where they're going to go, and they're talking to you as if they're half here, and then they're talking to you about what they're seeing on the other side, and it's like you are literally, as much as you are in this dimension, you are also absolutely with them in that other dimension, and it's not your job to help them make that decision. It's just your job to hold the space. So it's especially hard when it's a family member and they're trying to decide if they're going to stay or go, and it's not your job to say, please, please, please stay. It's your job to say, so what will it be? You're seeing what's here, you're seeing what's there. I'm holding both. Where are you going? And I'm here to make sure that you travel safely back or travel safely there, right? So it is an incredible gift. However, it doesn't just have to be hospice care, right? It doesn't have to just be, and what's interesting is I've actually had the experience of being in the hospital with or for other people and ended up serving that role accidentally, like being called into, I've had really incredible experiences where souls have called to me. I had a family member once of somebody I did not know. I was at the hospital and they were like, do you think, could I just ask you a question? Do you think you could help me? Because they had seen me with my mom and they said, my mom's kind of in the same position and I'm not sure what to do. And so I went in and kind of grounded myself and held the space. We get called into these really interesting dynamics, right? But a transition guide can also be somebody who, and some of you do this automatically, somebody who helps people between giving birth and going back to work. Can we talk about what a transition that is? That for me was one of the hardest, I did it twice. That was one of the hardest transition times of my life. From being this, because when you're a new mom, you're just incredibly vulnerable and you basically haven't put real clothes on in, anywhere from 2 months to 6 months. And now you got to go back and talk about smart grown-up things and it's not baby language or you don't talk at all, right? Because you're just taking care of another human, and transitioning back into being with adults and going back to your professional responsibilities. Transition guiding can look like a lot of different things. It can look like guiding people from marriage into divorce, right? Or guiding a couple from being single into marriage, which I've done many times, right? As a officiant, or transitioning to retirement from working, right? Which is how are you, if you've always identified with what you've done for a living, how are you going to transition into being of service in a different way? Because retirement has its own service capacity, but it's not the the hustle and flow that you've been used to. So yeah, this is a gift, and some people are better at it than others. Here's one of the hallmarks of it from my perspective is I'm pretty good with ambiguity. I'm not great at it, but I'm pretty good with not knowing and just trusting process, which is ultimately what transition guides are really good at. It's I don't exactly know what that next step of your process is going to look like, but what I can do is enhance your feeling of resilience and capability, and also get you excited about what the next step or the next phase or step, part of your process might look like for you. And I also think that's part of being a coach too. Transitioning from able to disabled, or for me, transitioning from someone who, was well to somebody who had a degenerative disease, which was a transition for me. And then in my case, transitioning to having a degenerative disease diagnosed that was invisible. So it's one thing if you have a disease and everybody can see it, but I have one that nobody can see. So then people don't give you accommodations, or if you have your handicap permit in your car, which I do sometimes if I'm having leg problems, and I've had people say to me you look pretty well to me, right? Those are transitions too, where it's you have to figure out how to say things or how to help people or how to breathe through some very difficult, because life is nothing but transitions, right? Life is nothing but transitions from A to B. Nothing really stays the same. No matter how much you feel like everything in your life is static, that's the one thing that is not true. It's not static, right? And so, and a lot of you understand these things too, right? Like Judy when she lost her son, right? Or, you know, even a different child dynamic, like when your child goes off to college. Like I have a lot of friends who are going through that transition right now, and like they're you know, they're still parents, but their kids are like don't really need them, and they hear from them maybe once a week kind of thing, and see them at the holiday. I mean, it's just, you know, it's like all these like what is happening right now, right? So yeah, and giving birth, right? That's a transition. I'm not a good birth coach. You know, putting on that song, You Can Do It, put your back into it, and just saying, push. I'm not a good birth coach.
Put your back into it.
That's not really what anybody needs when they're screaming in pain. Anyway, the keys of clairvoyance. So this was, hold on, let me go back because they're not numbered. So one, I'm going to number these real quick for myself.
I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. So January was discernment, February was psychometry, March was blockage removal, April was psychocartography, May was clairsentience, June was transition guide, and then July was clairvoyance. So clairvoyance, maybe you do want me in the room when you're delivering a baby, I don't know, but it will be a party and we will not cry, we will scream. Anyway, clairvoyance is one of the classics, right? Like clairvoyance is literally clear sight. So being able to see dead people or not dead people or just things, right? And sometimes it's your direct vision, sometimes it's peripheral vision, right? But you're able to see what's not physically there. And I always tell people, right? But push it real good. I'm always telling people it may not be like looking in the corner and seeing that plant, right? Because I can see that plant. It could be a very subtle vision, right? It can be kind of opaque or transparent. It can be fleeting. It can be seeing, what do we call orbs, right? I mean, orbs are a clairvoyance too, right? I love that. Also, clairvoyance can be visualization. So some people can really see, like, oh, I can just see it. I can see that house, you know. I have a friend who's really good at this. Like when I moved into my house was empty for like 2 months because it just was a process of like finding things. And when you first buy a house, you're kind of house poor for a little while. So it took me a couple of months to like find furniture and like afford furniture. But she kept saying, I can just see it. I know how pretty beautiful it's going to be when it's done. And then when I finished my house, you know, 6 months later, she was like, it's exactly how I saw it, kind of thing. Like that's also clairvoyance. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I see a dead person sitting on your couch. Like we should not translate these things so literally, right? And then also able to see other people's perspectives. So this is an important gift for like a mediator, right? Like so, or a therapist. Like so, couples counseling, right? So okay, so how do you feel about that? Okay, that's interesting. Well, how would you respond to that, right? And really being able to earnestly and candidly be able to see things from multiple sides and multiple perspectives. This isn't always my gift. I intend things and I can sense things and I'm good at holding a vision for a really long time without needing it to happen quickly because I have patience. But I'm not always good at like, how do you, I mean, I would not be a good therapist. I'd be like, why did you just say that to her? What the hell? I mean, really? Like, why don't you be quiet for a minute? We're going to let her talk or whatever. I think I would have been a better judge. Like, really?
In your robe?
No, you just take all those words back. You just suck them back up into your mouth and just sit there for a minute. Anyway, that would not be my gift. But some of you have that gift, and I appreciate it in you. And you make wonderful therapists and wonderful mediators and all of the things. It's not my gift. Poor Karen would be like, oh, Lordy, I'd last about a day, right? Like, really? Then in August, we moved to clairalliance, right? This is the ability to smell things. And I'm glad I made you laugh, Karen. I do look like a judge in my robe, too, don't I? Why don't you shut up over there and let her talk? Because clearly you don't know what you're talking about.
You're like Judge Mariano.
Judge Jathita.
Jathita.
Aw, hell no. Okay.
Oh, a purple robe.
A little purple robe. I know. Yeah. If you're good at therapy, you're good at therapy. Okay. Clairalience. I do have this. This is one of my gifts. It doesn't happen to me all the time. You guys have seen it live. It happened in class. Do you remember? Like, I was in my crystal room, and the whole room filled up with a smell, and even it caught me even off guard. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And with clairalience, it's crazy because it's gone as soon as it arrives. For me. Like, a room will fill up with a smell, candles not burning, nobody's spraying perfume, all of a sudden the whole room smells like it, and then it's gone. It's like, whew, what was that about? But the spirits can use scent. They absolutely can. The olfactory system, olfactroy, is a very old part of your brain that's part of the limbic system, your mammalian brain. And it's not connected to your prefrontal cortex, so it's not connected to language. So you can't describe, like, when people go, well, what does that smell remind you of? And you're like, oh, I don't even know. Like, you're trying to come up with language. Like, it reminds me of my grandmother's. It's because you can't connect the olfactory system to your modern brain. So your old brain is having experiences that your modern brain can't even describe. But my nose is really good. It makes me a good perfumer, right? So if you're somebody who's really good at mixing scents or knowing that certain things will go well together, like, that tends to be somebody who's highly clairaudient too.
It did happen to Athena and me together, Jen.
It did happen to us together too.
When we smelled I smelled the gardenias.
Mm-hmm, I remember that too.
And
yeah, it was weird. Like, it happened 2 or 3 times this year,
mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. You know what I mean? And it's neat when the gifts show up while we're talking about them. You know, as opposed to like, oh, I'm having a clairaudience moment, and you're like, so who cares? Like, it's cool when it's like a trick that you can do on command. And you can also tell if you're clairaudient, you're also highly sensitive to scent. Like, you can just smell things before other people do. You're like, mm-hmm. You know, yeah. Which sometimes, you know, is a gift, and sometimes it's a challenge. Okay, clairgustance is taste.
That was also August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did them together, so that's, I should double up those. Being able to taste what is a present, a sophisticated palate, right? You're more experimental as a young person with different flavors. This was me too. I always wanted sharp, intense, strong flavors as a kid, whereas like most kids want the kids menu where it's like ketchup, hot dogs, and American cheese. I was wanting to order off the adults menu because I couldn't stand those things. Like, if it didn't have spice and tang and like didn't activate all of my taste buds, I wasn't interested. And even now, I don't like bland food. It just bugs me. If you were to open up the cabinets here, I've got like 18 different kinds of spicy shit that I can put on my food if it's bland, because I just don't like bland food. And that's also a cultural thing too, but you can taste things. And then clairaudient people also tend to be able to pre-diagnose health problems, because a lot of health problems present through taste. There'll be a metallic taste or a salty taste or something where your doctor will say, well, is your taste different? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times different imbalances, energetic imbalances will present through your taste buds too. And then when we got to September, we talked about clairaudience. This is another one, right? Where it's kind of a traditional gift, but we tried to give you some additional spin on it to make it interesting. This is you hearing things that are not necessarily audible to other people. This happened to me last night. And I also had a really weird experience with clairvoyance a couple nights ago too. I literally felt like I was on ayahuasca, but I didn't even have melatonin or anything. I went to bed. I didn't even have caffeine later in the day, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and one of the kids left one of the outside lights on, and it was shining up on a palm tree in my backyard. Mm-hmm. And the palm frond, it was windy. So we've been having kind of storms here in Southern California. So the palm frond was moving like this, but the leaves of the palm frond were literally like a lion mane, and then there was a face. And like, I could totally see the lion's like mouth moving, and there was like messages coming through. So it felt like this mix of all these different gifts. Like, I could see a lion, I could hear a lion, I could sense a lion. It was crazy. But clairaudience also happened to me last night, because sometimes I will, and it only happens in the middle of the night for me, so I'd be curious if this happens to you too, where I will wake up and I swear the kids have a radio on. You know how when it sounds like there's a radio on, but it's so low that it's like you can hear voices, but you can't hear what they're saying. It's like you're tuning into. I remember the old timey radios, and you could turn the dial. I'm dating myself now, but my grandma had one like you could kind of turn the dial and it'd be like.
Oh yeah, it would take you to the different stations.
You know,
Yeah.
and it just was like that last night. It was like somebody was turning this dial between these channels, but it was so low that I couldn't make out any of the words. And I just laid there and I actually fell back asleep to it. It was quite comforting. But isn't it crazy, for me anyway, when I'm having these experiences, and it happens to you at night too in bed, my brain wants to try to figure it out. So like literally I could feel my brain like going, just listen more closely and we'll figure out what they're saying. And then like my higher mind is like, we don't need to know what they're saying.
Yeah, if you fell asleep and it was comforting, maybe that was their message for you.
Yeah, it was just like, we're here. There's stuff, right? And it's kind of like when you fall asleep during meditation, right? And you're like, oh shit, did I miss the whole thing? You did because you needed to. They straight up knocked you out because you're too up in it. You're trying to figure it out. You're trying to decode the messages. They don't want you decoding shit sometimes. They want you to be quiet and lay down and get out the way. You know what I mean? Because your monkey mind, if they really let you get in there, is going to interpret it in some way that isn't the way they're trying to do it. So they're trying to deliver this. They're like, God, please knock her out. You know, and then they go back to like tuning the radio. So sometimes they have to get you out of the way, because if they don't, you're going to overinterpret things in a way that isn't accurate either, right? Then in October, we turned to shamanism. Also, clairaudient people tend to talk to themselves. And I talk to myself all the time. And when the kids were just starting to get older, this was like probably 5-6 years ago, at first I was embarrassed. Because when they're little, like, you're like, whatever, they're 2. Can't tell that I'm having a whole conversation with myself. But then we're like 7 or 8, I'm like, is it weird that I'm just like, what did I come in here for? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that. Well, that would be interesting. I haven't really thought about that. I wonder if I texted Alexa, you know, it's just like, and I just have kind of a running, but the nice thing is anybody who's in my home just knows it, or I'll give them like a heads up, like, hey, I talk to myself. And
sometimes I hear you doing it.
Do you?
Yeah. And I'll be like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, nothing. Yeah. I'll be like,
it's a staff meeting. And I'm all the staff. And I don't really care. And I think, like, God, if it's bad now, can you imagine me when I'm older? There's probably going to be like somebody's going to do reels of it or something, like, you know, like me in the corner, like, there she is, everybody. Tune in.
We all do it. I do it to myself. I do it all the time, too.
It is part of a psychic gift. Or at least I'm going to tell myself that, because otherwise it's just like a mental health challenge that I'm trying to reframe in a different way. Shamanism. Yeah, and I talk to spirit too. And I talk to my mom, and I talk to God, and I talk to angels, and I talk to all of them. I do. They're right there. I mean, I do. You sing to yourself? I like that. I don't sing, so I don't do that to myself, but it wouldn't be pleasant for me. But shamanism. So shamanism for me, there's a lot of different definitions of shamanism. Shamanism for me is understanding your intimate and dynamic relationship with nature. That you are not separate from all of creation. So seeing yourself as part of the mix of what is, right? Oh, that's much better. I can see better now. Yes. Okay. So communicating with nature, experiencing oneness with all creation, working with your ancestors, right, in different dimensions, and then holding and negotiating energy for others on multiple dimensions of awareness. That's also what a shaman is called on to do, right? So, which kind of overlaps with the transition guide. You know, in some of those moments where I remember my mom first almost died 9 years ago when I first moved back down to LA, which is the reason I moved back down to LA. We got a call actually in San Francisco. They didn't think she was going to make it through the night, and there were no flights. So we flew down at 5 a.m. the next day. And my mom was in her hospital bed, and she was looking at me and going, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." And then she would look over to the side and go, "Aunt Joyce is here." And I would go, "Oh," who had died in 1980. And I was like, "Oh, she is?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she says, "All I have to do is just say yes." And she says that all the trees are full of fruit and it's ripe and I can eat anything I want, as much as I want. All my favorite fruit is there. That's what she says. And then she would look at me and go, "How are the kids?" I'm like, "The kids are fine." And she's like, "Wow, it's really beautiful." You know, she would like kind of gaze off to the side again. And so my sister came in the room and she said the same thing to my sister, like, "It's so good to see you." And then she was like, "The fruit is just so amazing." And she just keeps saying, "All I have to do is say yes." And my sister comes out to me and she goes, "Can we sit and hold down hands for a second?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Let's tell Aunt Joyce to back up the truck." Because, no, we did. We literally sat and held hands and said, "You can't have her right now. Athena's moving down. She needs time with her grandchildren. You will have another opportunity. We need you to back up." And my mom was just like, it feels so easy, you know? It's just like, all I have to do is say yes. And so finally, my mom stopped talking like that. When my mom passed away in August of 21, my sister came to me and she said, before my mom died, she said, "Aunt Joyce is back." And she said, "This time we're not going to win." And that's how I really knew. And my mom kept saying she was going to pass away during that hospital stay. Nurse Sandy, who's in the feed, saw my mom because she works at that hospital. Anyway, but it was just so crazy to see her going, "It's so good to see you. How are the kids?" "Oh, all I have to do is say yes." Right? So she knew she was going. But my aunt did back off. She really did. So that is shamanism. You know, you're literally like, "Here I am. I'm at the hospital. We are holding hands. And I'm also watching you talk about the fruit on the trees and then look back at me. And I'm, you are also moving between those like, ooh, because there's no way that if you're tapped in, you're not doing that dance at the same time." So that was October. This also, right? I know. No, she knew she was going. And honestly, it was a blessing because she could have suffered much more than she did. My sister and I were talking about that this weekend, how grateful we were that it was quick, you know what I mean? And that she's with Joyce now, which is really cool too. But shamanism doesn't just have to be about death and dying. Shamanism is about recognizing that all of nature is alive and we're interconnected, right? So that's why we don't hurt living things, right? That's why we don't so he's always like, "Is that why when there's daddy long legs in the bathtub, we scoop them up and we take them to we don't just start running the water?" I have a bathtub where daddy long legs love to just sit in the bottom of the bathtub and we always scoop them up and take them outside. Aww. Right? Like every form of life is entangled, right? And nothing is separate from us. And so we have to learn to be in symbiotic relationship with nature because there is no form of life that is disconnected from you, just like you are not disconnected from any form of life too, right? And then in November, we went into telepathy. And by the way, this is such a reduction of what we did, but I'm just giving you kind of the high level. Telepathy is the ability to communicate thoughts and ideas by means that don't involve your senses. So remember we talked about thought balls, right? Like you can gather up a thought or an idea, and then you can transfer that to the third eye of another person, right? So you can gather up all your intention and your energy and your focus, and then you can literally imagine transferring. And even doing this for you now, I'm not even really focusing. My hands get hot. Like, you can try the exercise again. Like, imagine gathering around your third eye, because as long as you're within 12 inches, you're right at your third eye, right? Gather all of your focus for someone and the message you want to convey to them. And take a deep breath. Do you feel your fingers get tingly? You feel it? And then you can imagine reaching out to that other person, go 12 inches outside of your field, but imagine that person right in front of you and transfer that ball to them, to their third eye. It's a very real exercise. It's quite powerful. Consciously sending messages to other people with your mind. These are people who are good at helping people express what they want to say too. I always find that the telepathics are really good, like ghostwriters, or people who are good at helping people communicate their ideas, like putting their ideas into written form or PowerPoints or anything like that, because they're good at picking up kind of not just the not just the idea, but the intention behind the idea and communicating the full idea clearly. It's a cool party trick, right? You can really feel the energy of that. And then this month, of course, was prophetic dreaming, and we talked a lot about different types of ways of working with the dream state, and even the different levels of conscious awareness, right? And how to modulate those and recognize and learn how fun it is to be between the different states of consciousness. You know, I love that state between beta and alpha, between alpha and theta. Beta and alpha is kind of what you were feeling when we did the thought ball, right? Like you're not super focused anymore because you're kind of in that zone. It's like a nice deep meditation. And then from alpha to theta is when you're dropping down to almost out of waking state into dream state. And then you go from theta to delta and you're asleep, right? So it's like as you slow the rotational spin, right, of your energy field, you drop into this much more deep state of awareness. And from there, you're much more connected to your higher self, your inner wisdom. There's less of like the chatter in your mind. You know, you don't feel focused, but you feel connected. And it's a beautiful place to be and sit. You receive messages about the future or information you wouldn't know otherwise through your dreams. You see signs and symbols in your dreams and journeys that you're able to interpret. I had a dream about someone last night who literally WhatsApped me today, and I hadn't heard from him. Somebody you know too. It's one of our gemstone friends, but I hadn't heard from him in like months.
Yeah, I was after you had a dream about him.
Literally woke up at 8, and I woke up to a WhatsApp from him.
Wow.
Yeah, it was now he's very intuitive too, so I'm not that surprised, but I was like, well, ding dong. So, people with this gift too get really good at modulating. So they can quickly go from beta to alpha or from alpha to theta. And in the theta state, you have access to greater healing keys and awareness than you do in beta. You know, in your waking state, a lot of your healing gifts are kind of compromised or because your mind is overriding them. But when you get into these slower, lower, deeper states of awareness, you're not blocking and preventing. You're really embracing and opening. And it's a different way of being and knowing. So once and for all, if you want to, do you want to write what your top 3 gifts are? Now that we've gone through the whole shebang? The bang bang. Now that we've banged you, do you want to write down what your 3 are? I would still say, you know, number 1 for me has got to be clairsentience. I still think, I think I have a highly developed gift of either transition guide or shamanism. And, you know, and then from there it gets tricky because I feel like I've got clairaudience, I've got discernment, I've got some clairvoyance, I definitely have clairalience. I guess from there, for me, the funnel kind of like widens a lot at the bottom, and then there's probably 4 or 5 that I have. I'm like Marie, like I can't really pick 3, but yeah, so you can kind of, at least it gives you a way to think about that. And then the last piece of this puzzle is how do you use these things to manifest, right? Like for me, I feel into whether something's right for me or not right for me. I don't figure shit out. You're never going to hear me say, well, I'll figure it out. I'm not going to figure anything out. that suggests that there's some like mathematical model and I will put all the variables into it and out will spit my answer or whatever. I'm not going to figure anything out. I'm going to feel into it. I'm going to lean into it, or phrases that I like to say. I definitely see how things register in my body, which is also kind of a shamanic gift, you know, like if something is going to go wrong in my life, do you know how I know? Even minorly, and I can tell how severe it's going to be. My digestion flips. If I'm going into my day or into a meeting and it'll start as like a kind of a queasiness or like almost like a gassiness, and then if my stomach turns, like I can tell you like something is about to go. My solar plexus is such an accurate barometer, to the point where if I feel even a little bit of it, I won't eat until the end of the day, because what I don't want to do is put food on top of that, because then I know my body's not going to digest it. And so your body being a barometer is something that we see a lot in shamanism. For some people it's different. They'll get headaches. Their crown will bust, if something's going to go off. And so they'll just know, if they can go for a very mild headache, or they can tell. I have one friend who's like, I can tell if it's in the front of my head or the back of my head what the issue is. So I can check my gut. I can lean into something and feel the energy around it. Are two ways, and then I can listen for messages, right? Because I can also hear spirit, especially if I can get quiet enough where I'm not distracted, because my life is a zoo, right? So it's very easy for me to just be like, well, there's stuff all the time. If I can get quiet enough, then the audience will kick in, and then it's like, okay, so what do I need to hear? But even my therapist, her favorite quote is, what are you not hearing, right, in life? Because we tend as humans to hear what we want to hear, but we tend to not hear what needs to be heard. So she will constantly ask me, like, so what do you think you may not have heard this week in your life? What message might you have missed? Was there any time you were in a conversation with anybody where they cut you off or you cut them off? Can you remember any moments like that? It's kind of similar to brain spotting, right? Where it's like, what are you not paying attention to? Or when your gaze falls to this one part of the room, what was happening to you or for you or around you the last time that happened, right? And so, yeah, so by paying attention to what I'm hearing or not hearing, right? Especially if I'm trying to manifest something, then what? Or if it keeps coming up over and over and over again, even though I'm trying to like la 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 la, but it keeps coming, right? And so that is, usually the keeping coming for me will either be clair sentience or clair audience. Like I keep hearing this message, I keep hearing this guidance. And the only time I've ever made mistakes in my life is when I don't heed those messages. When I don't give the intuitive gifts their full value or appreciation. That's when I've made mistakes. That's a year in an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
So, I know.
I can't believe it.
It's huge.
It's a lot. We learned a lot this year.
We learned a lot. And keys to your own success too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't believe almost anybody, there's 420 of you now live, right? I don't believe that any of you really manifest exactly the same way as anybody else who's here, because the wisdom comes to you uniquely, the messages come to you uniquely, the pathway to integration comes to you uniquely, and then it's about figuring out, so what is that for you? And sometimes it's trial and error, like I've noticed that when I've created something really successful, it's been A, B, and C, but when it hasn't worked out, it's because it's X, Y, and Z, and what does that mean, right? I know, I learned a lot. Jeanette said she's a good listener. That's a very important skill. It is a very important skill. It's much better than being a good talker. Listening is very critical.
Being a good talker is good too.
Being a good talker is good if you can listen, and know when to listen and when to be quiet and create space, that you don't have to. But that's also maturity, I think, is recognizing when you don't need to be the loudest or the most frequent voice in the room. Like, what do other people have to say? So I'm going to light my candle. Tis time.
The last candle.
I know, last candle of the year. I am going to open a circle just because it just feels, why not? Because I like to open circles.
Should you open it with the graduation wand, maybe? For our honey jar? Or no?
Maybe.
Might be kind of nice, right?
It's my last chance to do it officially with this one,
That's
though.
true,
We're about to, I don't know, this one, I'm
Yeah.
feeling called to this one. You're not wrong. I could open it twice, but know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Know when to walk away, know when to what? It's true. And so, what do I need?
Are you doing the honey jar first or the wand first? That'll help with what you need.
Well, the wand's already. You mean the adding of the stones?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly yet. I do want to just take a moment to just hold our sphere together, because this is going to sit on my altar at home or here at the shop probably, and yours will sit where yours is too. And I just want to take a moment to I know it's glass, so it's not, we don't tend to think of glass as being a living material, but I do just want to take a moment just to, especially for those of you who may not have it, just to look at that little octahedron. Now, the octahedron is really a representation of your pineal gland, but it's also the shape of manifestation. It's the balance of what's above and what's below, right? And so I just want to take a moment. Every time you look at this, I want you to remember how gifted you are, especially in moments where you're questioning yourself. You know, when you look at those eyes in this sphere, which has been our logo for the whole year, one of the things I loved about these eyes, I didn't create them, you know, our graphic designers did, but I feel like it's all of our eyes in one. I see a little bit of my eyes in it. I see a little bit of Karen's eyes. I see Alexis's eyes. I see a little bit of Tara's eyes in them. And so I want you to, when you lose sight, right? When you lose faith, I want you to come back to some of these tools and just remember, there are times where it will feel like your vision is fuzzy, you know, when you feel like, oh, I've lost it, or I can't see clearly right now. And it is the hardest. My teacher always says, and it's true, it is the hardest to see clearly for yourself, don't you think? I mean, I can read for other people all day long, and then I go to read for myself, and it's like, meh, meh. But that's because oftentimes we have a desired outcome in mind, and it may or may not be what's right for us. And so the universe has trouble pushing past like what we want for ourselves versus what's actually in service of our highest good. So I just want to have us, if you have yours, hold it in your left hand, cover it with your right hand, and just commit in this moment to believing in yourself and trusting that your dreams were put in your mind and in your heart for a reason. You have every gift and ability that you need to make them come true, or they wouldn't have been placed in your heart to begin with. And that there are angels and people and light beings and spirit beings all around you who want nothing more than to see you manifest your greater purpose and your wildest dreams. And so just remember that. Aho. Amen, aho, and so it is. So into the sphere, I welcome the guides and guardians of the East tonight, and into this wand. I welcome energies of air, of clarity, and foresight, and new beginnings, and new cycles, and new possibilities. I welcome in the energies of south, of fire, of transformation, of empowerment and courage. I welcome in energies of west, of water, of renewal, and love, and ease, and tenderness. I welcome in energies of the north, of air. And give it to Alexis so she can hold it too. She'll call it in for us too,
Sure.
but you can watch and look. Welcoming in energies of north for grounding, for earth, for stability, for presence and patience and peace. I welcome in the element of spirit for magic, for synchronicity, for divine timing, for faith and trust. And I anchor these energies in our sacred, beautiful tools. I feel like the magician. The magician's my life path card.
Yeah, I know, with you holding that, you
I
did
know,
look
I'm
like
like,
a magician.
holding my wand. But truly, you are all the magicians, right? Like, you are here fundamentally to put your tools into motion, right? To use the tools around you, the tools within you, to manifest your higher purpose. That's why you're here.
So cool. Looks on
That's beautiful. But do you see what I mean about the eyes and how it's like it's all of us? I hope each of you can see your eyes in that beautiful sphere, because I see all of you there. Rotate her towards us.
Thank you.
There we go. You see her? Him, them.
It's really cool. Looks like that. Just the way that turned out looks so cool.
They're looking at you, darling. I see so many faces, right? Okay, so let's do the honey jar first.
Okay, would you like to do that on this camera, or do you want to do it over there? Either way. Just seeing if I should turn this off.
No, I think I'll do it here. I think I'll just stay here, yeah.
Okay.
I am using a product that some of you got. This was an optional product for next year, actually, but this is the Ritual Preparation Oil for Living Magic. And it's juniper and white sage and patchouli. And it literally represents all the chakras, all the directions, all the elements. So for grounding, for abundance, and for clearing and protection. And then I'm going to put just a drop into this jar, because what's really cool is this is both the ending of this year and the beginning of the next. So I'm going to do 7 drops for the 6 to include this year, and then the 7th to represent our new beginning. Okay, and then just kind of roll that around so the whole bottom of the jar.
The preparation oil smells so good.
It's a good, just sort of general tool. And then we have different stones that represent different aspects of our intuitive gifts to add to this jar that we chose. And they're so pretty. The team did such a nice job putting them together.
This was Sophia, and she sent me the list of stones yesterday, and she just did so good.
Cheers, Sophia. Really grateful to you. I'm just going to follow my intuition. Azurite feels really important. We've talked about azurite all year long. Azurite is one of the most important stones of insight and intuition. And if we've done nothing this year, if we haven't activated the third eye, like if your third eye hasn't been activated, I didn't do my job. So azurite goes in for the priestess in you and in me and all of us. Tanzanite, which is the third eye stone of the Synergy 12, feels really good to put in there too. And then kyanite, because I think we harmonized a lot this year. I think we pulled a lot of energies together, our past and our future and our present, into one. I think we found ways to balance having strong intuitive gifts, but also having boundaries so that we aren't like, a victim to those gifts or a slave to those gifts in a way.
If I may.
Yeah, please.
I feel like Iolite's a good choice because Soul Shift last year we did the Magician's Pendant, and it's a nice little connection to that as well.
I like that too. And it's octahedral, and it's not in its crystal structure, but in the shape of that stone. Do you see? Mm-hmm. That's like an octahedron.
It's a cool piece.
I like that too. And then I think we've had to let go of a lot of fear this year. I think we've had to be pretty brave and pretty fearless in our pursuit of our gifts and our goals and our dreams. And that's going to serve us well into the new year too. And then I think we've been pretty creative too. This is Blue Chalcedony. The last one was Sodalite, but this is Blue Chalcedony. I think we've had to channel a lot of creativity and inspiration, because sometimes we didn't have it to give to ourselves, so we had to find it in other people and other sources. So that feels really good. And that's 6 stones for the 6th year for 2022.
Yes.
So I kind of like that. That feels really good.
I like that a lot too.
And then this is all of us and you. Happy birthday, Lara. How wonderful to be here on your birthday too. So that last one was Blue Chalcedony for creative inspiration, and Sodalite for releasing fear. And then this was the double term that we charged in Crystal Masters, which includes everybody in Soul Shift, but they're included too. in our honey jar. So I'm placing that in as well. With gratitude and blessings to every single person, all of you, with congratulations, with the hope and the intention that everything you learn this year will benefit you emotionally, spiritually, financially, energetically, that everything that you've learned and grown and developed this year will bloom and blossom in your life and bring you gifts that you may not even be anticipating yet, which I love that too. And then
I'm doing God's work right now.
she's doing God's work. We're going to sweeten up these blessings. So, may your blessings be sweet. May your journey be sweet. May your next steps be easy. Like this honey that's just flowing. Do you see it? It's just flowing in there. Like
That looks so nice. She picked such a beautiful jar for this. Like
she did. It's beautiful.
perfect color for this momentous occasion.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. You see how it's just like it just wants to go in there and hug and kiss all those crystals inside. Bear number 1. May your next year be sweet. May 2023 be sweet and blessed for you. May the last days of 2022 be sweet and blessed for you. May your relationship be blessed and sweetened. May your path, your professional path, be blessed and sweetened. May your friendships be deepened and sweetened. May your experience of nature be deepened and sweetened. May your experience of love be deepened and sweetened. May your learning be deepened and sweetened. May your May your New Year's celebrations be deepened and sweetened. What else? May your health be deepened and sweetened. May your path to health and comfort and ease in your body be easy. May you find just the right people and resources in your life. May they just land right in your lap. May they come to you in dreams and then WhatsApp you the next morning. May your finances be easy and sweet and deepened. May you experience deep financial flow now and into the future. May everything that you need to create the life you love and desire come to you on eagle's wings, on angel's wings, without any resistance or hesitation. So you don't have to work for it. You just sit back and magnetize and receive. I like that.
Should we ask them if they want to add any words to the jar?
Yeah, that's gonna be my last little caboodle here.
I
I think I have like one.
I thought I was being creative.
Aw,
Really,
you
were
were
a step ahead of me.
You were. Is there anything else in the feed? What would you like to add? May your compassion make a difference. The feminine. I love that too. Compassion, femininity. I love it, Melissa, my bee sisters, opening and welcoming these sweet blessings. May your friendships be deepened and sweetened, right? May your readiness to receive be deepened and sweetened. May your gratitude and your peace be sweetened. May your kindness be sweetened. May our community be sweetened. May sensuality be sweetened. Your names didn't go in this year because you're in the crystal. I charged that double term with everybody's energy from both of our classes this year. May your childlike wonder be deepened and sweetened. May your psychic and intuitive gifts be deepened and sweetened. May your families be deepened and sweetened. Your children, your babies, your godchildren and grandchildren and nieces and nephews and just little ones that you like that aren't even related to you. May your happiness be deepened and sweetened. May your siblinghood be nice and strong. May your faith be deepened and sweetened.
Vanya said, may our oracle gifts be deepened and
That's
sweetened.
right. All of your psychic, intuitive, oracle gifts be deepened and sweetened. Your creative fire. May you be love, benevolence, and compassion. That's beautiful. Joy, creativity, bliss. May you accept the sweetness. Your fur babies. I know mine is sweet and deep, large and in charge. May your innocence be sweetened. I love that. All right, you guys, and together we say, oh, that smells good. Amen. Aho. And so it is.
And so it is.
Oh, got it right to the right place.
Oh, our bears lined up. So cute.
I'll lick my fingers. Amen, aho, so it is. I sweetened you all up. Sweetened you up, buttercups. Okay, so for our last step, I've got our 12 beautiful. I'm gonna put my candle somewhere else because I'm gonna knock it over otherwise. Got our 12 beautiful trillions from the year. And I'm a little OCD, so I'm going to line mine up first because otherwise I'm not going to get my spacing right.
I do not blame you at all.
And I don't know if it's possible to turn the camera toward me so I don't have to move. Do you think we can? Or do I have to?
Sure, yeah, let me see what I can do.
Okay. Oh. Something's getting sweetened over there.
I was trying to see what it looked like on the light stand.
Let's see.
Very pretty. Okay, let's see here.
I just need to get a rough sense of the spacing. I can move.
I can kinda. It won't go too far. I don't want it
But
to
you guys can
accidentally
see. Yeah, you
unplug.
guys can see that.
Let me just move this stuff out of the way.
You can see.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll put the jar in the shot too. There you
It is
guys.
cool on the light stand. 'Cause You can
Right?
see the stones. Yeah,
It looks pretty.
that's really neat.
Hi. I'll show you to make sure you got the keys on.
Oh yeah, I think we figured it out.
Like they literally fit so perfectly.
Oh, it looks pretty.
It really does look pretty. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm gonna figure out my halfway point. So that there's, half and half. So the midway point is right there. Some of you are probably thinking, she's fucking nuts, but you know what? Don't judge me. I'm actually really excited about this part of our work together because I just had a vision in my mind about how beautiful this was going to be when it was all done, and I think it's so pretty. So the first stone was your Tibetan quartz. Remember this one? Had the little carbon
You want me to show it up
situation.
closer?
That's all right. No, I think you guys can see it. It was the black and white one. Then you add your red aventurine. So we'll go one by one as we glue them. So I'm gonna get my glue gun. Actually, I'll let Alexis do that because my robe is gonna be a problem.
No
Let's do-
disrobing.
Okay. Oh wait, hold on. Amethyst, rainbow moonstone, oil smoky. Okay, there we go. Titanium bar. Okay.
Do you have the space you need?
Yep, and I think I'm good. Okay. So, as we affix our Tibetan quartz, we are calling in the energy of January, which was for behave, for physical healing and wellness, which feels really good. And then in February, we had our red aventurine. That's for grounding, but also for openness to new experiences. It's also for regeneration. Beginning anew. And then in March, we had carnelian, get the party started. That's for energy and stamina. To see us through the end of winter, right? Into spring. And then, shit, I knew I was going to do that. And then in April, we welcomed the first signs of spring with citrine for abundance. I also just want to give thanks to the stonecutter who did all these because they're perfect, you know, like.
They really did such a great job.
Yeah, they were very thoughtful and very intentional in making these for you, so I'm glad you're loving them. And then in May, we did chrysoprase for heart opening and heart healing. And then in June, we did amazonite to help us speak our truth and live authentically. So, meh. Okay.
I felt that. I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna move it. Sorry. Sorry, amazonite. I always say don't Martha Stewart things, but you know, she's a Leo. Sometimes we do it. Okay, I'm redoing my amazonite because I kind of did a shitty job, but it's better now. That's good. I got 0 sleep last night. I had 5 baseball players in my house, and they were screaming until 2 in the morning. It was just like insane. And my house looks like Animal House today. Okay, and then in July, lapis. Literally, it was like five grown men screaming. It was insane. For empowerment, that's your queen stone, right? Reminding you of the queen within. That amazonite's still being kind of an asshole. It's like not quite in the right place. It's okay, I can fix it later. You don't have to do this, by the way. If you don't want to attach yours, you can just watch me doing it. It kind of will bring the energy for you. Okay, and then we had our amethyst in August, which is about peace and balance. And then we had our rainbow moonstone in September for harvest, right? Manifesting, calling in the gifts and the fruits of the year. I always say it, but this is such a nice glue gun compared to the one I have at home, which is terrible. And then our Aura Smoky in October, which was for honoring our shadow and also the turn to the darker half of the year. Protection. And then our titanium aura quartz in November for strength, resilience, but also for turning within and recognizing that we have what we need, right? We are the source of our power and our gifts. Not having to look outside of ourselves. And then last but not least, in December, this month, it's our opal aura quartz, which for me is all about like Christ consciousness, transcendence, redemption, beauty.
It's so pretty.
And I love it. Even with the Goopa Doops on it. You can take your Goopa Doops off later. And so that, my friends and beloveds.
Oh, how pretty. I love how you can see it from the other side, too. It's so pretty.
It's a year of magic. Isn't that beautiful? So this will forever be such a significant power tool for me. Usually I zhuzh things and I'll put ribbons and stuff on them. This one's kind of being a jerk too. I'm going to redo this one. But I'm not going to do that with this one. I'm not going to add, I don't think, any ribbons or anything to it. I think I just want it as it is. There's a simplicity to it that really speaks to me. And it's just about the work. It's just about the stones. It's just about the energy. So it doesn't need to be anything other than it is. Just like us. So, are you ready to release the circle for the last time this year? Actually, I want to pronounce them first before I do that. Let me have my
Yes,
stole.
here's your stole.
Thank you. That feels better. I was like, something is not ready to be released.
It wasn't laying right behind you earlier, and it was bothering me, so I took it away.
She took it away and she gave it back. Your final pin.
Want me to take this thing off? Please?
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out where I kind of put this one. I think it's right about here. Is that right? Yeah. If you have your stole in your pin, as you place your soul shift pin on your stole, I now pronounce you, and even if you don't have your pin, I now pronounce you the graduate of the 2022 Soul Shift program, certified as a manifestation guide, certified as an oracle, certified as a crystal master, and certified as a graduate of the Soul Shift program. By the power vested in me, I congratulate you. I seriously, dearly bow to you tonight.
They would like you to hold your wand up to the camera so that they can charge their wands.
Let's do it. Here's to mine. With so much love. Here's to mine with so much love. Is it easier with the other camera? Maybe. Well, there you go. That's nice. Here's to mine. Soul to soul. Yeah, so whatever you've got, your magician pendant, whatever feels right to hold up, congratulations to all of you. With a big, deep bow from my heart to yours. I know I feel like we need music. Na, 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 na. I'm kind of ruining it.
Dun, 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 dun.
It just makes me laugh, Alexis.
And then I used to be, I believe I can fly. I used to play like every graduation.
I can't with that song. Okay. Great Spirit, God, Goddess, and source of all that is, all wisdom, all power, all benevolence and beauty in this universe. We give thanks for this time together, this experience, this opportunity to grow in trust and in faith and in our own unique spiritual gifts, but as a collective. And for the last time this year, as a collective, we release with love the guides and the guardians of the element of spirit, of magic. We thank you for constantly bringing the magic, the serendipity, the beauty, the right place, right timeness. How many times did they connect the dots for us this year? Show us like, oh, that's connected to that, or you're connected to this person, or, lead you to meet someone here who's brought you companionship and trust and, given you faith in humanity again, right? We thank you so much for magic and release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the North, element of Earth, thank you for anchoring us in this experience together, helping us to be strong, helping us to remember who we are and why we're here, helping us to remember that we don't walk this earthly path alone, but that we always are guided and strengthened. And that we have so many ancestors around us who bring that, especially in the North, grandfatherly energy to us, right? We thank you and release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the West, thank you for helping us have faith and trust and to receive this year wisdom, nurturing, guidance, support. Thank you for helping us shed what needs to be released, cry tears that need to be cried, but also to find comfort in each other's embrace and to also receive flow of energy, of abundance, of beauty, and to remember that that flow is always eternal, it's always there. And also helping us to release things this year that weren't serving us anymore, and to do that with grace. And we release you with gratitude. And thank you to the guides and the guardians of the South, element of fire. Thank you for helping us shift and transform. Thank you for, I'm thanking them personally, that I've had the chance to witness you grow and become, and I'm so proud of all of you. It's such fire energy, but it's like I've seen you move past obstacles that maybe even you didn't think you could, right? And you've done it with empowerment and strength and tenacity and conviction and courage, and I'm just so honored to have witnessed that this year, and I hope you see that fire in you too, and I hope it inspires you, truly. We release you with gratitude. And then thanking and releasing the guides and the guardians of the East. Thank you for helping us begin this cycle, and now tonight for helping us conclude it. Thank you for opening new doorways and new pathways to wisdom and to relationship and to knowledge. Thank you for helping us open our eyes a little bit and see things from a different perspective, and to not resist that newness and that awareness, but rather to really embrace it and to expand what we thought we knew, to include concepts that sometimes were complicated and complex and new to us, and yet not to shy away from that, but to embrace it like the lifelong learners that we are. And thank you now as you prepare to open a new doorway and a new cycle for us, and helping us to step into whatever that will be with courage and grace and gratitude too. We thank you and we release you with gratitude. Releasing all the spirit guides and the ancestors who are so proud of you tonight. They're so proud. And thanking and releasing the guardians of this container, because I think we've had several, I really do, who've shepherded us through this process and helped us to stay on our path and, move forward in a good way. So just thanking and releasing all energies connected to this experience for now. And together we say, you ready? Amen. Aho. And so it is. Amen, aho, and so it is. Amen, aho, and so it is. We love you. We're proud of you. Congratulations. Yeah, did it.
So proud of you guys.
You did it. We couldn't be more proud than we are, truly. There are amazing souls in this community. Each and every one of you has touched all of us, and we're better for your presence, we're better for your wisdom, we're better for your the fun that you brought and bring, and we're better for your generosity of spirit. I've learned so much from you this year, I can't even begin to tell you. I do every year. I say it all the time. I'm like, well, look at that. The student becomes the teacher, right? But I always like to say I'm not the smartest person in the room all the time, right? And I like that too, because it takes the pressure off. I know a lot, and you're obviously here to learn something, but there are a lot of people in this community who are just so blessed with wisdom, and thank you for sharing it all year long. Really appreciate you.
You're pretty smart most of the time.
I'm smart most of the time. I have my moments.
I'd say all of the time.
Every year I get a little crackier. I blame it on hormones, everybody. I'm going to do something I'm really excited to do, which is to take this robe off because I do get kind of overheated.
Do you want to leave the stole on, or are you taking
I'm
it
going
off?
to take my stole off too. I want to keep it with my robe.
Okay.
I probably will always wear that stole now.
Scooch your butt. Thank you.
My dress was under my butt. It's a good look. All right. So now, I'm smart, but I'm not the smartest person in the world, and it's fun to be surrounded by other people who just are intellectually just juicy, like you guys. It's part of the fun. It's part of the process. So thanks, you guys. So now for my next trick, it's party time. We still have an hour together that I would love to enjoy with you. I have nowhere to go and nowhere to be other than in your delightful, beautiful presence. And so, rabbit hole, what's on your mind? And if you were just here for graduation, you will not hurt my feelings. I know it's the holidays and a lot of you have kids at home, and it's busy and stuff. So if you need to check out and go do your thing, totally fine. You will not hurt my feelings. But I do want to give you your full class experience, which includes this fun hour that we call, or hour and a half that we call, the rabbit hole.
Yes, Jan, please do post pictures. You can do that in the Soul Shift.
Yeah, I would love to see you if you've got your stole, if you've got your wand. I'd love to see how you decorated it, whatever it looks like. Maybe you did something cool and interesting that I didn't think to do, and I just would love to be inspired by you. So post away. That way we can all go in and congratulate you too, because that's a big part of our fun for us too, is to be able to say how much we are proud of you personally. So.
Oh yeah, Karen just reminded me that we were hoping, and I'm sorry I forgot to tell you this earlier, but we were hoping that you could pull one last collective card, like
I would
a
love to.
graduation card.
Maybe from our deck, or
No.
what deck were you thinking?
Could.
I have other decks too.
Yeah, let me go find something.
She's gonna find a deck that she. Did you check in with David about the video too?
I communicated with him.
Oh, you did. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we're good.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, and whenever you do it, like if you do it this weekend or something like that, just post it this weekend. You don't have to do your one right now. Some of you like to watch and then do it later, which I totally understand that too. When I'm taking classes, I usually like to watch what the teacher does and then do it on my own time because I get nervous. So that's me too. Yeah. So Karen's asking to see the final wand one more time. So this is it, January to December.
I will show them on this camera too.
Yeah, so she'll show you there too.
I brought you multiple decks to choose from.
Can I bug you? Now I'm cold. Would you mind just turning off the AC? When I had my strawberry magic on, it was it was a lot, but
You know what? I just appreciate that you called it strawberry.
I did. I'm not going to call it tomato anymore. I am going to pull a card. This is this was a gift from one of you, actually. The Unshakable Inner Peace cards, and I think they're beautiful. So I'm going to pull a collective card. I think it's a great idea. And my hands are too small to shuffle these properly.
Do you like some
So-
help? I helped you last time.
Yeah.
This is
You shuffle it for us.
This is the situation.
Situation. She's situationalizing it for you. Yours doesn't have to look like that. You could cluster them up in different ways. I was thinking you could almost like shamrock them. Do little clusters of 3 or something and put ribbons in between them. I don't know, which would make it like the quarters of the year, which would be cool too. So please don't feel like the way I did it's the way you have to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. That would be really, really cool. So you do your creative magic there, is what I would say. And so this is, again, the Unshakable Inner Peace Oracle deck. She'll shuffle it, and then
I love that.
that's skills. Oh, almost skills, sorry. As soon as I said it, she blew it.
The cards just kind of
I'm just gonna shut on up
The
over
cards
here.
repelled against each other. There we go. I redeemed
Okay,
myself.
she did. Okay, it's fully shuffled. So soul shift, soul shift, soul shift for the collective, the collective, the collective. That includes Alexis.
It had to happen one last time, right?
Right? Nothing broke in the process
Nothing
of
broke.
moving that tray. That includes everybody who's here and everybody who will watch later. This is our collective card for the end of 2022. And maybe a little bit of wisdom for what's ahead.
Oh my goodness. They're all saying Alexis.
Aw, look at this. Ooh. I'm going to have her show you the card and then I'm going to read you from the book.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Forgiveness will set you free. When someone you care about hurts you, or you witness injustice and pain in the world, anger and resentment can feel justified. Perhaps you've been harmed by the actions or words of another. When we experience trauma, these hurtful actions can have a lasting effect on us. Chances are there's a situation and person you need to forgive. The first person that comes to your mind is the accurate person to focus on. Forgiveness is not saying what you did is okay and I will forget about it. It is simply an energetic exchange, releasing the hold that has been imprisoning you. By embracing forgiveness, you can also embrace peace, hope, gratitude, and joy. If you are having difficulty forgiving, focus on your willingness to move forward with more peace. Then consider how forgiveness can lead you down the path of well-being. This is beautifully put, isn't it? I do not have better words for this. When you forgive, you make a choice to let go of resentment and anger. Forgiveness is needed for you right now to feel better. It's highly possible the person you need to forgive is yourself. So here's your divine assignment. You may be stuck in a vicious cycle of guilt, sabotage, blame, and shame. Do you feel guilty for something you did or didn't do? Be kind to yourself or the other person and practice self-love and compassion. The words you say about yourself matter. Recognize that everything is always in right order and you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Take guided action to create a better, more aligned outcome. If you're prone to dwelling on negative feelings, unforgiveness will only make the situation more challenging. Spend some time focusing on all the good things that have come out of the situation. Make a list of what you've learned and release expectations. Be willing to forgive yourself and others, and you will be set free. It says further guidance can be drawn from the leopard energy in this design. People with the leopard totem are self-confident, wise, and courageous in the face of adversity. They have a great deal of personal power. Tap into leopard for guidance on how to forgive. Also note this spirit animal is the healer of deep wounds, which means the leopard will bring old issues to resolution through the reclaiming of your lost power. That's beautiful, isn't it?
It is really beautiful.
Woo, baby. Woo!
It's a beautiful card.
I like that. That's a really good one. I'm gonna leave that there for us for now. Okay. Really, Judy said she just shared that with a client yesterday. I love that so much. And Janine said she was looking at the leopard. I was already calling to you. I love that. All right, so any questions for me? You don't have to have questions or things you want to talk about, but oh, I love that. Megan said, forgiveness of myself is the best gift Soul Shift gave me. That's
Aw,
huge.
It really is huge.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many really felt like that message was meant for you. And I think a lot of us have gone through either have been hurt this year or have felt like we've been holding on to something that we've done this year, and so I think it's a resonant message for a lot of us. Laura J said, I understand my gut feelings, but can you help me when the third eye heats up? Needs some clarity. Do you mean physically heats up? Let me know. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly, so I'll look for your clarification on that. Yeah, it's a great card for all of us. And then Mama Minecrafter has a technical question, Karen and Alexis, about retrieving passwords, so they will help you with that, because I love you guys, but that's not my I'm
That's
so not good
your-
at that.
That's not your zone.
I can't do this and do that. So if you're ever like, well, why does she defer to them? It's just because I'm not a technical person, just like you wouldn't want me balancing your checkbook.
That's
You
a
know what I mean? It's just like,
support.sagegoddess.com.
that's not my gift.
I would not want you managing my checkbook.
No.
I wouldn't want to be managing my own checkbook. I have a monopoly
Mentality?
money.
Yeah.
I do.
Whee!
Yeah.
I don't, yeah,
It's
I'm just
not
not,
my-
I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stephanie's like, are we doing rabbit hole tonight? And I'm right here.
This is the rabbit hole.
I know. Let's see. Let me see. I'm just going through to see if there's any questions for me. Yeah, they're all just, we're laughing for a few minutes about your tray incident. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting into some juice over here. Let me go back up. La 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 la. I actually don't know how many total employees we have right now because it has fluctuated over the year. And I don't actually know the exact square footage of our building, but it's pretty big. I do miss the old building. A day in the life of SG really depends on what kind of work you do. Our support team sits near our marketing team, so they're downstairs on one side, and then on the other side, there's double doors, and on the other side is our order fulfillment team and our products and our warehouse team. And then kind of behind them is our design team that does, works with the essential oils and pours the candles and all of that. And then upstairs, where I am, is my office and Dave's office. And then our product team is right here too. So, and that includes our people who, buy products for us. Our head of product, Rosalind, is up here. And then, and then our head of HR, Nia, who's fantastic. So that's kind of our lay of the land. And I would really say the day is so different depending on what you're doing. We have a social media crew who, creates fun memes and content, and they're so talented. We have a writing team, super duper talented, led by Tara. And, we have couches, they have desks, but we also have couches and papassans and stuff so that they can kind of move out and lounge around. And, and so they kind of have a little bit of free range. We have 3 sofa sectionals up here on the product floor too, because my philosophy is if you don't want to sit at a desk, you kind of shouldn't have to. And everybody's job is different depending on what they're doing. New products come in every day. So our warehouse crew, headed by Edvin, who's just one of the sweetest human beings you'd ever want to meet and incredibly talented. They just receive things from all over the world every day, which is really fun. Yeah. Do I think vortexes and tectonic plates are connected? I do. Tectonic plates are really interesting. I live in LA, which is kind of on a tectonic, it's on a fault line, right? So on what's called the San Andreas Fault, which is one of the larger fault lines in the world. And I'm also really, one of the things I'm interested in geographically are trenches, like the Mariana Trench, which I think is the deepest trench on the planet. But there are, where I like to go in the Caribbean, the Grand Cayman, once you leave the kind of shallow water of Grand Cayman, it drops off into a trench, and it's almost as deep as the Mariana. I think it's the second largest trench in the world. And I don't know why trenches interest me so much, except, and it's especially fascinating for me because there's no way I would ever want to be a diver or anything. I don't like water or deep water or dark water, but I am kind of fascinated by the fact that there are forms of life in those trenches that have never been discovered because humans can't safely get down there. Even in, all the equipment, we can't get down there and survive. So one of the things that fascinates me is that there's, no matter how long I live, how smart I am, how much I study or read, I will never get to the bottom of the mysteries of this planet. And I think if that weren't the case, I would go crazy. I am not that person who gets excited when they finish the puzzle. I like it when there's just a shit ton of pieces all over the place, and I, as soon as the puzzle's almost put together, I'm like, I don't want to finish the puzzle. So for me, what fascinates me is all these different parts of we think we know everything, right? And especially smart people think they know everything. And I'm always drawn to people who are like, oh, but what don't I know? Or what can I never know? We're never going to know the totality of life in the trenches. And that fascinates me. Trish wants to talk about, I'm just jumping around, entities and shamanism. Yeah, so entities. I believe in entities and attachments. I think they're extremely rare. I have encountered one before in someone, and was not my favorite experience. And I don't talk about it because there's no point. You know, certain things don't need to be told and retold. That's part of my shamanic training. But I encountered one enough to tell you that they exist, and but not everybody is susceptible to them. You know, I always say some people are so focused on protection work, and I'm always curious about those people, because I think protection comes down to your vibrational state and whether there is damage to your vibrational state, which would create an opening for something like that to come into your field. I also think entities can be passed down through generations and lineage. So, you know, because I've seen families with attachments where the mom has an attachment, the kid has an attachment, the grandmother had an attachment, and then at some point somebody's got to get smart enough to find the right person to remove it. In shamanism we call them darts, right? It's sort of like, but they can be quite extreme. But the reason Tina's saying she sent 2 emails, so I'll just make sure you write into support. I won't be able to check that for you now, but Sabrina and her team are really good about responding. So anyway, coming back to the question, I think I always tell people I believe in attachments. I believe in extraction of those attachments, and I also believe almost nobody has one. I've encountered very few people with legit attachments. I also know for sure, and this is part of why, like, when people wonder why I have such strong beliefs in my own, you know, religious and spiritual traditions, in my experience, those energies cannot survive in the presence of divinity, however you define that. And I don't think there's just one divinity that can combat them. I think every tradition has a name for it. In my tradition, it's Jesus Christ, right? So an entity like that can't survive in the presence of Christ energy. But I suspect the same is probably also true of the other major avatars of source consciousness. So I don't think you just have to have Jesus. Because what if you were born in India and you never heard of Jesus? Does that mean you can't combat an entity? So in India, you probably would work with a different deity to combat attachments. Yeah. But they don't like light. They will make someone turn away from you. If you're carrying too much light and someone has an attachment, I have seen people literally have to leave that person because they can't, unless they're willing to acknowledge the attachment, they have to get away from the other person, because the entity will force them to get away from that person in order to prevent themselves from being prevent itself from being extracted. I have zero fear, though. I mean, I have this much fear because I know what to do. And once you know what to do, it's like that you also just don't see them anymore. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you experience those things as a way of reminding you of your superpowers, and then they don't really show up for you anymore. I don't consider that part of my profession. Like, I'm not somebody who waves a wand and says, hey, if you've got one, I'll take it out or whatever. But I think there are shaman who do, you know, who are willing to go in there and do that work. I'm just not interested in that. It's very heavy, dense work. I think it takes a toll on the person who does it, but yeah, fear not. So what you do is you face it with light, and it retreats. But extraction of it, for the person to really be relieved of it, that person then has to receive that light in a conscious way, and agree to also host that light. So you can subdue an entity, but if the person really wants the attachment removed, they're going to have to agree to receive and host that light. And I've seen people who don't want to do that.
So they just kind of deal
with their attachment. Yeah. I think fear is an opening to lower vibrational energies. So I think fear is not your ally in that process. So when I see people who are all anxious about protection and fear and things like that, I'm going to blow my candle out, by the way, and send all that magic to you. When I see people who are really afraid, I'm always like, you know, that will not help you. Desiree says, do you believe God could ever feel like I'm doing something bad or wrong by asking for guidance through divination tools? Well, far be it from me to suggest that I would be able to tell you how God feels, but I use divination tools and I feel like I believe in God. Here's the thing, I do think there is duality in our universe, because my fundamental core beliefs don't go back to a religion. They go back to Hermeticism, and Hermeticism, I believe, is Atlantean, and I believe it's the foregrounding of everything that we call religion today, right? So if you were to say, what's your real core belief or your real core religion, I would say it's not a core religion, it's Hermeticism. Everything is polar, right? There's light, there's dark. Everything has gender. There's masculine, there's feminine. Not everybody is masculine or feminine, but it takes a penis and a vagina to make a human, right? We just can go back to sort of like basics, right? So these are some fundamental truths for me, that everything has a vibration, right? Everything, the all is mental. Like I taught you tonight, everything begins in the mind. Which ones did I miss? I don't even know. But
you said polarity, gender, the all is mental.
Not neutrality. Anyway, I missed a couple, but you see what I'm saying. And then you can see these sort of fundamental Hermetic truths echoed in, or kind of inflected across these different spiritual traditions. So I think that whether something is right or wrong is partly a function of the way it's used and by whom and for what purpose, right? I can use a knife to cut an onion or to stab someone. Is that knife bad? Or is it my choice of how to use it and my intention? I mean, it's kind of a very simplistic answer to your question, but I think there are tools that we have, and how we choose to work with those tools. And do we open a circle? What's our intention for working with those tools? Do we know who or what we serve, right? With our questions and our intentions. So, but this is kind of the way I teach my kids, right? It's like, are people bad, or do they get, I fundamentally believe people come into this planet, most of them. I've seen some little ones come in that are questionable, but I think most people come into this planet relatively clear, and then life happens to them, right? And it's how they respond to or absorb or translate the events around them, right? So intention is everything, process is everything, right? Cause and effect, right? If you do something, there's an outcome. Thank you for that, Circe. What else did I forget? There's a couple of other ones. Correspondence, right?
Yes. Rhythm. Vibration.
Which to me are always kind of connected.
Yeah. Cause
what
and
goes
effect.
up comes down. What goes in goes out. Shooters and cooters. Hermetic wisdom. Very technical terms for complex realities, right? Some people have energies attached to them, and they can be quite young. You know what I mean? I'll never forget. And it's such a weird thing now as a mom of a teenager to look back on. But when I was bullied in junior high school, my mom called the mom of the little girl and said, your daughter did this really shitty thing to my daughter, and I would call the other parent and say, I just need to make sure you know what's happening and that your daughter's doing this. And the mother, I think I told you this story before too, the mother said to my mom, I don't know what to tell you, my daughter's evil. And I remember my mom was like, excuse me? I'm sorry, can you say that again slowly in English? Did you really just say that about your 11-year-old? And she was like, yeah, I'm really sorry that your daughter is suffering, and my daughter is just, and listen, we're not going to get into a parental judgment game. I mean, I don't think that we should write our kids off, but yeah, she really was like, I'm very sorry, my daughter's just evil. What are you gonna? I remember my mom telling me I literally didn't know what to say to her because I was expecting 19 other answers, like, oh, I'm so sorry, or let me get her to apologize, or that shouldn't be happening. Yeah, that's what she said to her. In 1983, right? Sorry. And then that was the end of the phone call, by the way. So what are you going to do? Beyond discernment and our other gifts, what's the best way to readily or really read someone when that person is very hard to read? Some people don't want to be read, Hillary. You know, one of the harder truths, I think, in my life, and I'm curious if any of you have felt this way too. You probably have, right? Yeah, now I have compassion for that young lady, by the way, because I would never want my kids to feel like I'd written them off. Like, what kind of parenting relationship is that? But back to Hillary. I'm not a writer offer anyway. I always have hope for people because I've just seen radical miracles and transformation. So like I said at the beginning of this talk today, for our class today, I don't write off anybody. I really don't. You know, I once had somebody write in. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. I had somebody. Bless you, Alexis.
Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you, guys.
There was somebody who wrote in to me and said, "There's a member in your group, and this person is this, that, and the other, and you just need to know." This was years ago, maybe 2015. And I wrote back to the person and I said, "I really would like to hear more about your intention for writing to me." And the person was like, "Well, I just think you need to know. You know, they're pretending to be X and they're really this other thing Y." And I wrote back and I said, "Maybe that's why they're in the program." I mean, I just don't think anybody is really, at the end of the day, I mean, until we leave here, I don't think that there's a reason to give up on each other. But I do think that some people just write people off and then feel like it's their business to go tell everybody, "You need to know." And it's like, really? Maybe you need to know. But some people do not want to be read. And some people's energy field is very closed off. And some people, I really believe, now, when we say new souls or young souls, I don't really think there's anybody here who's like fresh out the universal womb, right? I really haven't met, even people who've told me this is my first lifetime. I don't know that I really believe it's anybody's first. But I mean, I guess in theory you could say somebody has to have a first somewhere. But I do think some people are very advanced and want and are reluctant to be here. You know, they signed a contract and now they're here and they don't want to do this and they're pissed about it and they're curmudgeonly and they're this, that, and the other and ultimately, and I've seen people go through their whole life like that, where they're older people and they live by themselves and they die by themselves and, you know, they fulfill the terms of the contract, but they're not happy about it. Have you ever met anybody like that? I still would say I'm not giving up on you, but I'm also not going to sit here and try and like knock on your door and then knock again and then knock again and then knock again, because at some point if those people want to, you know, be transformed, they're going to have to find resources for that, right? So, I don't know. Is there a graduation code?
There was a graduation code. It was from the 17th to the 21st. I see you guys saying, but it's our graduation day. We put it between the Crystal Masters graduation and this graduation so that it was for both of you guys. It's just how it worked out.
There is 24% off today, though. I think the code is winter.
Yes.
Yeah, so the most we do is 25, so we don't really do more than that, so winter's pretty good. There is a graduation grid. I don't know if we can...
It's right here.
It's beautiful. Did you see it?
It's really, really cool, yeah.
Like if you didn't get your final tools and you wanted something to... I
think it's lovely.
To commemorate. I chose the stones that went on there, just as I thought they were really perfect. Like the prophecy stones I thought were really perfect additions for that. Aren't they gorgeous?
I think it's really, really cool.
And then it's the art from the eyes. So.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's there for you if you want that. How do you know what your contract is and can it be changed? You discern it over time, and I think it can be shifted. I've seen people extend their contracts. Like I've seen people come in and think they're going to have a very short life and then decide they're enjoying it here and be able to extend that timing. I've seen that happen. Deanne, that's my best answer. So, but you know, the terms of the contract evolve over time. Like none of us really knows the full terms of our contract because we're still like in progress, right? So it's like, and our contracts can shock us, even very psychic people. Like, whoa, I thought I was supposed to do that forever, or be with that person forever, or have this thing forever, and then, not. Or I thought I was going to have more of this or less of that, and I'm not, So it's like the contrast can still surprise people.
You want to see the backside, Michelle?
My backside or the grid backside?
I think the grid. Maybe
I'm just
both.
kidding. I'm totally kidding. It's really
So the
pretty.
backside is labradorite.
It's labradorite, yeah. I'm kidding. I had to get cheeky a little bit. Otherwise, it was just too serious of an occasion.
Don't tempt them with a good time, Athena. Don't tempt me
Whose
with
backside
a
are you
good
talking about? Wouldn't that be timeline jumping? Potentially. For me, timeline jumping is a great question. I do believe in walk-in souls, by the way. We can get back to that in a second. I think for me, timeline jumping, I'm a pretty cute butt for somebody who's 50. I mean, it's not perfect. It's a little wide, but it's,
You have a great
I'm Greek.
butt.
I'm not going to have like a little skinny booty. Well, my sister told me this weekend that I have really skinny legs. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, compared to everybody in our family, like you've got little stick legs. And I've never thought of myself as like a stick leg person. It's like, really? She's like, take your pajamas off. So I took my pajamas, my sister. And I'm like, you take your pajamas off. She's like, I'm not taking my pajamas off. I'm like, why am I standing here like that? Anyway. For me, timeline jumping is there's all kinds of dimensional realities going on at once. And you could like jump to when your kids were little, or jump to when your kids are older, or jump to, a past life, or jump to a future life, or things like that. To me, that's timeline jumping. Timeline extension is when you modify the terms of the current contract, which is not my area of expertise, but I do have friends who talk about it quite often and say that there are conscious ways to do that. And I think Dolores Cannon talked a little bit about that. Dolores Cannon was really good at understanding the different kinds of contracts. If you haven't read about the waves of volunteers, or just go on YouTube and watch a good video about it, because sometimes some of you are more visual learners and some of you like to read. But her theory of the waves of volunteers is very accurate for me, because I definitely feel like my mom was part of that last wave that like kind of wanted to be here but kind of didn't, and kind of just didn't like people and wanted to help people but didn't really want to spend a lot of time with people. Like the last wave of volunteers, they were kind of we're introverted too, but they were highly like, they kept to kind of their circle, like this whole expansion and proliferation of things online is totally our wave of volunteers. My grandmother wanted to be a television minister, or not TV, radio minister in the 40s, and everybody judged her for it. But she was studying at Angelus Temple here in LA under Amy Semple McPherson to become a radio minister, because she really felt like she was a very good minister and she wanted to bring the gospel to a wider audience. And that was like, at the time, that was unheard of. So I often think that I'm fulfilling some of her wishes by bringing my teaching, which isn't her ministry, but it's my teaching, which is by extension some of her. I teach you stuff she teaches me all the time, or taught me all the time. Bringing it online is kind of like me carrying the football forward, down the field for her. Yeah, isn't that cool, Judy? That he renegotiated to the extent that he did, right? This is a hard time to be on Earth. I've never heard so many. I feel pretty lucky because people are pretty honest with me about how they feel, and I've really never heard that many people in my life say what a consciously hard time they're having just being here right now. And I think it's okay to say that, yeah. Timelines be crazy. Let's see. What's my favorite crystal? Sapphire. I'm pretty shameless about it. And after that, it's tourmaline anything. I really do love sapphire in all its colors and all of its beauty. Let's see. So walk-ons or walk-ins are people who have NDEs and their soul goes home and a new soul comes in. But I've also heard of people having that experience when they travel, like when they, it freaks me out a little bit. That's why I'm very cautious when I travel, like where I go, and I don't go into like high energy, high vortex places without kind of like just calling in my guides and angels, because it's like, you just never know. There's places on this planet that are full of mystery, and I wouldn't want to like have like a walk-in, walk-on situation without my, awareness. Like you go into a temple, one person, you come out of a temple, somebody else, right? Interesting. Erica said her mother saw these times coming and she checked out early. I think my mom got exhausted by COVID. She didn't die of COVID, but the constant masking and being indoors and stuff like that was very discouraging to her. I just think certain souls were able to withstand some of this stuff that we're going through better than others. So yeah, and I think we're all doing the best we can right now, we did do one card pull for the collective. Yeah, I might do one more right before the end, but I did do one just a little bit earlier. It was this card for forgiveness, which I thought was really apt. Because forgiveness really isn't something you do for other people. And I've had so many clients say things like, well, if I forgive him, then it means he got away with it. And it's like, trust me, sweetie, nobody's getting away with shit. You know what I mean? The universe is watching. So it's not about that. It's about your inner peace. You don't need to be the guard and the police officer and the warden. You need to be you. People don't get away with things, right? So, Barbara, I'm sorry your dad died of COVID. It's hard. I lost a couple of people I know, and it was very hard. Let's see. Yeah, for sure. It's challenging, but we got this. And look, I think there's a reason why people are brought together in different contexts and containers. And again, I think we're really lucky. My dad often talks about growing up in a village, a small village, right? And how sweet that was, and how you never felt alone because you had your two aunts down in the house next door, and you had your uncle across the street, and you had your grandmother down there, and you had the, weird neighbor Joanne down the street or whatever, but you knew who everybody was.
Betty,
and Betty, Doris, they were all, whatever, you hit Doris and you smacked Betty, but you knew them, you know what I mean? And you pretended to like them at the little market or whatever. But we don't really have the villages anymore, but we have these virtual villages now, and now that's complicated because it is a different way of relating energetically, and we have phenomena now like ghosting. Like in the village, Doris couldn't really ghost you. You know what I mean? Like you wished she would, but where was she going to go, right? Was she going to get on her goat and, go to another village or something like that? So there wasn't really a lot of ghosting in the village context. Get on your goat, Doris.
Or the cow she stole from you.
Yeah, she stole your cow and ghosted on you. But so now we've got these other weird phenomena like canceling and ghosting, and there's a lot of weird shit, but the benefits of being in these virtual communities is sweet too, right? What is something I learned this year that I didn't know before? God. Let me think about that. There are things this year that I learned. One of them was from my dad. I didn't know, and I don't want to tell you the whole story because it's a long one. I actually have it saved on my phone in my voice because I was like, this is so interesting, I want to record it. I save a lot of my dad's teaching. I didn't know that the city of Venice actually comes from the French Venice, which means come here, because it was like a safe haven during the war.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know that. But there's little tidbits like that all over the place. Let me think about something from our community that I learned that I didn't know. What are we doing New Year's Eve? Any special ritual? There's a boatster!
Where'd it come from?
Will you connect him with... Hi, baby boy. I know. He always wants to lick my face.
Has he been here the whole time?
I don't know. Will you give him to Rachel, though? Because I'm going to take him home. Dave had to leave a little early today. You're going to come home with me, Bodes.
Come on, baby.
He likes to lick my armpits, and it's really awkward in meetings. So Rachel's going to help me with him until it's time for us to go home. So anyway, I'll come back to that. Michelle says, I understand what people are saying. If I forgive my mom, she thinks what she's done is okay, and she keeps treating me the same way. Choosing to move forward without anger and resentment is perfect. Yeah. Like I said, we don't have to be judge and jury and executioner, What's going to bring you peace is the ultimate question. So New Year's Eve, any special rituals? It'd be kind of fun to go live with you New Year's Eve. Let me see what I'm up to and what the kids are doing and Dave. And we'll see. I haven't thought of it yet. But it would at least be nice to toast you and welcome in the new year with you.
That was an adventure.
Is she out there?
No, she was there, but Dave was also there.
Oh.
So he was trying to go with Dave because Dave was kind of like walking around.
Yeah. Dave and Bodhi are like peas in a pod,
I
man.
love them. They're so cute.
They are
together.
cute. He loves me too, though. I am his person.
Oh, he
too.
loves you. I wanted to take a picture. He was sitting in Athena's lap earlier today when we were
In meetings, he sits in my lap.
Yeah, it was so cute.
He's such a love bug, and he just leans on my arm. But he does actually really lick my face and my armpits, and I don't love it. And I don't know what it is with my armpits. I mean, it's so. But he will lick it until like my armpit is raw. It's so awkward.
Maybe they're nice and salty.
It's so weird. And he doesn't do it to anybody else. Anyway, this was the deck, the Unshakable Inner Peace Oracle deck.
Maybe it's the deodorant you use.
Maybe. Half the time I don't use deodorant, so I don't know. Maybe that's why he likes it.
Yeah, it's the salty.
I'm the salty lady. It's Katrina's first New Year's in Maine. Well, cheers to you, right? We should do a bingo night. Bingo was fun. We should do that. That was really, really fun. My kids are teenagers now, so I'm sure they're going to want to do the thing with their friends. Having all those boys over last night was just crazy. At 2 a.m., I was finally like, what are you throwing at the wall? Like, and what am I going to wake up to in the morning?
All those men boys.
So I called Nick, and he's like, I know, Mama, it's so loud. And I was like, see, I don't even have to tell you. I just called him on the phone. I don't have any ayahuasca journeys planned right now. Maybe in the new year. Maybe in the new year I will revisit that. I just haven't felt called to it this year. I'm not exactly sure why. It is a little hard on the system. Part of it is I have one teacher who really doesn't like ayahuasca, and that's a longer story. But I also think it might be a projection because she had a bad experience. So I don't necessarily listen to like what other people tell me to do, but will I ever teach a program where you get a certificate in perfumery? Okay, so I thought about it, Randy, and then we offered that summer class, and just to be honest with you, people weren't that excited about it. I mean, a lot of people took it and they enjoyed it, but the collective feedback across the board is people are more interested in sound and astrology and I love perfuming. I think it's exciting. I think that the world of aromatherapy is as diverse really as the world of crystals, and I think that oils are vibrational. And also, I have some technical training, like in French perfumery where you mix, it's molecular, right? So a lot of it is like fine synthetic, and you can really, on a molecular level, you can make a very nuanced scent that is almost irreplaceable, or something you can't copy. So I'm fascinated by the concept. There's never been really that big of a call for it to do it. Would I feel the need for protection when visiting the pyramids? I would definitely be calling in spirit guides, and I would be probably using my pendulum to decide where to enter and not enter. That's when you're in. My rule is when you're outside your immediate pantheon. But even in Greece, even at the Oracle, which I was supposed to go to right before COVID, Zoe got sick. We had a trip planned, and the Oracle, we had a day excursion to the Oracle in May. Right before I went to Paris, which was in May of 2019, we were supposed to be on a 2.5 week without the kids, which was crazy at the time, Mediterranean trip, and I was supposed to go to Nice and then come down, through the Aegean and go to the Oracle. And Zoe got very sick, so that trip was canceled. And then, of course, all hell broke loose. But I will still use a pendulum and be cautious. You just don't know what's there. And if you believe energy is real, and if you believe that energy isn't created and it isn't destroyed, which is what I believe, then you just really don't know what you're playing with, right? Let's see. I love perfuming too, and we will do some perfuming this year. We will bonus class type stuff, but not, probably not as a part of the core curriculum right now. I kind of like switching it up, and I agree with Erica. She says that I think cooking and perfuming activate the same centers in the brain, and we're going to be cooking this year together, which I'm really excited about because I really do love to cook. I'm not professionally trained. chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I come from really good cooks, and I learned a lot, and I practice a lot, and I eat a lot. So, is there a certain type of sound tool we're starting with in Living Magic? Yes, bells and chimes. Not ceremonial chimes, but bells. We have our Living Magic bell, which is in the first set of tools.
Should I go grab that?
Maybe toward the end, because I do want to show you guys the tools in case you haven't signed up or registered for your tools yet. You have until the 31st to get your tools for Living Magic and Crystalpedia. And your Crystalpedia tool is that ring right there, which I love, which doubles as a weapon if Doris is in your village and causing you problems. Let's see. Let's see. We should do a book club, and Athena reads the book with us and we discuss. Yeah, I think I'm going to do little snippets of that. A lot of people in the group like to read, but they're not like readers, like they don't want to read a whole book. But I think I might like give you a book that I recommend, and then we read, I read part of a chapter with you and we talk about it, and then we do like a threaded discussion.
I remember you did that. What? Oh, it was the
Metamorphoses. Ovid.
Yes, it was Ovid. I remember you doing that. That was cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Yeah, we did a little where I went live and read with you every so often. We didn't get to the end of it, but it is one of my favorite books. Well, thank you for the good feedback of my perfume class, because I had a blast teaching it. It was really fun to, do you remember we kind of went country by country, and it was really fun to focus in on the different countries and the oils from those countries and some of the traditions from those countries. Like, I really enjoyed that a lot. Aya is just a lot, it's it really is a lot on the central nervous system, and a lot of people can't do it if they're on selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, which are the class of drugs called, that we know as antidepressants and anti-spasmodics and stuff. So it's there's a lot of people who are excluded from, because it can cause a stroke if you're on an SSRI. I'm not on an SSRI, but I thought about starting one after my mom died, and then but I didn't want to not be able to do ayahuasca, so I just used my own internal resources. You trip without it. Let's see, where am I going now? Can I give you mythology books to read? Yeah, there's some really good ones. Let me think about that. I would tell you, if you really want to read mythology, but I'm kind of a purist, like I would go back to, and I would start with the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are like really the foundational stories of Troy and the history of Greece and Rome. That's a place to begin. My dad actually got me when I was little, and I still have them. In Greek, it's called Iliada Kai Odysseia. And I still have my Iliada Kai Odysseia. It's like a little duo of the books, and it's all in Greek. I can read Greek. It's not great. But the Iliad and the Odyssey, if you get a good translation. I also really like, obviously, Ovid's Metamorphoses is a great mythology book, and it has a lot of the core stories. Like, it has the story of how the peacock got the eyes on its feathers, which I read to you last year. And then, what was the other one I was going to recommend? It'll come to mind. Dante's Inferno, which I wouldn't really call mythology, but one of my favorite, when I was in graduate school, I had to prove fluency in 3 languages other than English. My Italian is not great, but I did French, Spanish, and Italian, because I am fluent in Spanish. You had to prove primary fluency in one language and secondary and tertiary fluency in other languages. And so I don't know if you've ever read the opening line, I'll read it to you, of Dante's Inferno. But it's intense, and it actually really, whenever I've had a hard time in my life, I've gone back and read it. So it's Canto 1, and I had to read it out loud in Italian, which was intimidating. So here's how it starts. Here's Dante's Inferno, Canto 1. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Oh me, how hard a thing it is to say. What was this forest, savage, rough, and stern, which in the very thought renews my fear? So bitter was it, death is little more. But of the good to tell you, which there I found, speak will I also of the other things I saw there. I cannot well repeat how there I entered, so full of slumber was I at the moment, as I had abandoned the true way. But after I had reached a mountain's foot, at that point where the valley terminated, which had with consternation pierced my heart, I looked upward and beheld its shoulders, vested already with that planet's rays, which leadeth others right by every road. And then was my fear a little quieted, that in my heart's lake had endured throughout the night, which I had passed so piteously. And even as he who with distressful breath forth issued from the sea upon the shore turns to the water perilous and gazes, so did my soul, that still was fleeing onward, turn itself back to re-behold the pass, which never yet a living person has left. Let's see if I can still read it to you in Italian. It's not going to be great. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura, che la diritta via era smarrita. Ai quanto a dir qual era e cosa dura, esta selva selvaggia, e aspra e forte, che nel pensier rinnova la paura. My accent's not good. Anyway, I had to read the whole thing, Canto 1, in Italian to pass my master's exams. But it's powerful even in English, isn't it? Dante's Inferno. Midway upon the journey of my life, I found myself in a dark forest. And I think the reason it's so profound and still gives me chills is that I think a lot of us do find ourselves in these selva oscura, this selvaggio of darkness. And we look ahead and it's scary, and we look behind us and we don't know how we got here. It's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Pretty amazing stuff. Ooh, there's Ovid on Audibles. Oh, hey. That may have to happen for me. I think that's really cool. Is there numerology in living astrology? A little bit. For me, numerology and astrology are kind of, they partner. It's not going to be a focus, but it will come up for sure. Iliad and the Odyssey, Odyssey. The Odyssey is where you meet Athena, the goddess of wisdom, the gray-eyed one, because what she does, so Odysseus leaves his wife Penelope to go on this grand adventure. Here's Cliff's Notes. And Athena guides him. She guides him past, things that are dangerous for him, and eventually he comes back to his wife. It's a variation on the monomyth, right? The idea that there's this one kind of narrative of the hero who has to set out on a quest and then finds a mentor, and Athena is his mentor in the Odyssey. No funny. How, Lisa Rich, how did you dare to be yourself with your family and speak your differences and live your truth? Any tips to be and speak about unconventional ways with very conservative others? Yeah, it wasn't easy because I grew up in a very conservative, I would say half politically conservative. So my mom was always a little on the liberal side, but and my dad's gotten more liberal as the years have gone by, but religiously extremely conservative. And there was a lot of "you're going to hell" stuff. I just never believed it. Is that bad? And now I definitely don't believe it. And it's just like, but I do think that there is a and I actually have decided that I, which might surprise you, but I've decided to, there's a church close to my house, and I've decided I'm going to just go and try. Apparently they have, their Sunday 10:30 services are kind of a little open-minded, and I kind of would like to have someone read and give a sermon and just sit and receive. So I'm thinking about doing that maybe once a month in the new year. I've just been kind of feeling called to that kind of support and community. But it never rang true for me. None of that stuff. You're going to hell and, all that stuff didn't ring true. What did ring true is that there is good and evil, and, how to be in the light and not to live in the darkness. Like, I don't think that good and evil are mythology. I think they're real and they can be embodied, and it's very scary, but I don't live in fear of it. And I certainly don't think that the work I do sets me up for that kind of failure. So I just, I learned very early on discernment. I don't need to wear a sandwich board that says, I believe crystals can heal you now, ask me how. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very much a chameleon. I can be at a PTA meeting and be a PTA meetinger. Not my days of that are over because there's no PTA anymore. My kids are too old. But I can also be with the freaks and freak it on up. And I have discernment to know when to do what. But yeah, I can be whatever, because it's not about, I don't feel the need to convince anybody of anything. So when people, I've had people come up to me and go, crystals are a bunch of bullshit, and, I just think people like purple hair people like you are nuts as the day is long. It's just like, oh, I am nuts. Oh shit, I'm nuts. It's like, anyway, you want to have some coffee? Like I just, but I will say that's life earned, right? Like that's not, when I was in my 20s, I was pretty self-conscious, and so it wasn't like I was always balls out, but I definitely I'm there now. Can you tell us how the year progresses in classes and where are we headed? I don't have all of the classes completely built out yet because I don't want to. I can tell you that living astrology is literally living astrology. So every month we are looking at the actual astronomical and astrological events of the month and then talking about how they're going to affect the signs so that you understand. And that's why we're starting with it week 1 in Living Magic. Because I want you to look at the month ahead and go, okay, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. I'm a Libra, right? So this is what I need to be thinking about, or my, if your North Node is there or whatever. And then week 2 with practicing magic, I'm going to try to keep it seasonal. Like in the spring, I need to redo my raised planters, and I want to plant a new herb garden. And so my thought was to bring you in and have you there with me and teach you how to plant in a sacred way and setting intentions and what do the different herbs represent and things like that. And then cooking with you at the holidays. We're working on a guest speaker who's kind of famous for the holidays to come cook with me, or at least to be live with us. And because I just think that cooking is a form of alchemy, and so I'm kind of going seasonally. And then with Crystalpedia, my intention this year, because I just finished the world's first crystal encyclopedia, which I'm really proud of, that's coming out next year through Penguin Random House, which is really exciting. And they asked me to write it, which was really an honor. And so my goal is to give you kind of an encyclopedic understanding of crystals by theme. And so if anybody comes to you and says, crystals for clearing, you just would be like, And then with sound healing, my intention is to activate all of the chakras and even your transpersonal chakras, the chakras outside of your body, to really experiment with sound and healing. But yeah, I just wanted to evolve organically. And I want it to be fun and spontaneous. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to be live in the Living Magic Facebook group every week. But I don't know week to week what I'm going to be talking about, because I just want it to be spontaneous. Like, oh, I just read this new book and I want to share this chapter with you. Or I, just learned this new energy technique. Or I just remembered this energetic healing technique and I want to share it with you, right? No, you're not going to just be working with your North Node. That was just an example. You're going to understand your whole chart. And there's also a free class that's coming either Friday or Monday called Astrology 101 that Tara and I are doing for you. It's an hour long. And that's going to teach you all the basics of how to interpret your chart. So that if you're just coming into this, I mean, you guys aren't, but if you're coming into this new, you'll be like right up to speed. And then there's a guest speaker every month. So like January it's Deepak Chopra, February it's my original tarot teacher. So it's a lot of fun. And then there's still Elder Council. So yeah,
All sorts of fun stuff.
so much stuff. Yeah. Aw, thank you, Janine. Well, and you guys give me courage too. You guys are so authentic, you know. And I've seen you actually just bloom and blossom and bloom and blossom. And just when I think you can't bloom anymore, you bloom a little bit more. And it's like, good for you. I mean, I know a lot of people who live kind of a facade, don't you? And I was just talking to my dermatologist about this past week because she's my friend, and I was, you know, asking her how her business was doing and stuff, and she's like, you know, sometimes it's so hard for me because in my business I deal with people who either have like cystic acne or like really severe skin stuff, and like all they want to do is feel better about themselves, and they're like hiding and they're like embarrassed. Or I deal with clients who like just want to get their Botox, and it's all about just, or like their filler or whatever, and it's just about living like being kind of like not who they are. And she's like, I just see like 50-50 people who are like so embarrassed to be who they are, and then people who don't know who they are but they're trying to be somebody else. It's just such an interesting like perspective, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna dabble around in churches until I find one I like, because you can imagine that's not going to be easy for me to find one that I like. And I'll tell you something, and don't take this the wrong way, I don't want to sing. If there's a whole bunch of music and stuff, I don't want that.
You don't want to sing?
I don't want to sing, and I don't want everybody singing around me all the time. I don't know why. I don't like musicals. Please don't take that the wrong way. It's just I don't know what it is, but like I don't want that. I just want someone to teach me something and like inspire me, and then I want to leave. Yeah. And maybe have a little snack. Is that a thing? Maybe I need to make a church. I am ordained. That's what I would do. I would serve snacks, like little hors d'oeuvres and cookies, and then I would teach a quick sermon to all the introverts, and then say, bye, everybody leave, bye, no singing, don't sing. I don't know what we would call it, like the anti-singing appetizer church? Snacks and sermons? No, in the car I'm down. Like in the car, play it. I'll do karaoke in the car and stuff, but I don't want to go to a church where everybody's singing all the time. I know it raises the vibration, it's too much for me. I want a snack and a sermon and a see you later. Oh, thanks you guys. Okay, yeah, if I come late, Tina says I can avoid the singing. I want a graham cracker and a sermon. Methodists always eat. They have to be good church snacks though. I don't want like Keebler Elves cookies. I want like legit, like a charcuterie board or something. You're still looking for a good church, yeah. They can sing the Crystal Song. Nope. Snacks and the sermon and see you later, honey. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it has to be religious either. You know what I mean? Like, I think it can be like a wisdom sharing. And then I would love to have church somewhere where like you talk about how like you teach a principle and then how it could be seen from other traditions, right? Like, so how would a Muslim person look at this, you know, or how would they integrate this? And so how would a Buddhist person integrate that? And how would a Christian person, like, I just think that would be really interesting, but I don't think that exists. So I'm making something up in my head that I don't think is actually a thing. I do love Nadia Bolz-Weber. I do. She's the only like online person that I've really gravitated toward. So yeah, I think I'm more of a Sunday school person. I just want to be with the 5-year-olds. Give me a snack and read me a story and I'm on my way. Let me go potty and I'll leave. Yeah. Anyway. Well, you guys, thank you. It is true. I am looking for a fellowship, I think. Not a fellowship of the ring. And not a fellowship of the sing. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys. One last time. Ready?
I'm ready.
Amen aho, so it is. And on we go. To Alexis. To Karen Brown.
I love you guys.
To all of you. Cheers and cheers and cheers. We are blessed to be here with you. We really do love you. We really do care about you. We really do. We think about you. We worry about you. We do what we can to bring you a really great experience to the best of our ability, given that we're human and we're still on our path too. But maybe that humility, helps. Like we're still figuring shit out, right? So just a reminder, if you're in Soul Shift already, which, I'm pretty sure you are, because you're here, then your membership's going to roll over to Living Magic. You don't have anything to do unless you want to change your payment method. So if you've been monthly and you want to go annual, which saves you $200, which is kind of a cool thing. And there's a pay up front option through Zip, I think, this year.
Yes, there is a... Hi. There's a pay now option just for annual.
Yeah.
And that allows you to use Zip Pay to break your annual membership into 4 payments across 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And the upfront payment will be, I believe, $250 that you'll pay right then. And then the other payments will come out later. That way you can do the annual payment without actually having to pay the whole amount up front if you don't have that.
But the first payment does come out now.
Yes, it
So
does.
if you want to pay $1,000 for the year, but pay nothing until January 1st, then you can't use Zip. But if you want to pay $250 now, and you can use Zip, then you can do that, and then the other 3 payments will come out over 6 weeks, which is kind of nice. And quite a few of you have chosen to do that, because if you know you want to be here for the whole year, it's kind of nice to save. There is also an annual option for just Crystalpedia and just Living Astrology, too. So if you want to not be in Living Magic and be in the individual programs, there's an annual option for that, too. And then the tools, if you want the tools, that's the Crystalpedia tool.
Yes, let me go grab that.
And then the Living Magic tools have your bell, your candle, your Labradorite Lazy Susan, which is so cool, and your Living Scent tools, which are brand new for the year. The incense is made with Mako, so you don't need charcoal powder, which is really cool. And Home Church Online, wouldn't that be fun? You would teach with me? I love that, Melissa. Maybe we need to make a home church. Call it Snacks and Sermons and...
I'm gonna slip this right in front of you. Oh, I caught it with my leg. I did it.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That really would look.
Oh, you really did. This bell's been in her crotch.
It wasn't in my crotch. It wasn't in my crotch.
That's our new... It wasn't. This is the new bell. So that will be replacing our other bell for the year. This is the candle. It's called Living Winter. There will be a seasonal one for spring, summer, and fall. This is the centerpiece of the kit. It's an actual Labradorite Lazy Susan for your altar. Isn't that gorgeous? So you can rotate this on your altar and you can spin your tools around, which I think is really cool. Then this is your Living Scent incense and your essence, and then you get your Living Astrology cards and your little ring to hold them. And then the Living Crystalpedia tools are the ring and the little book of gems, which actually has some little sneak peek content from my new book, which is pretty cool. And so you can subscribe for your tools, but you'll need to do that before the 31st, because otherwise they're not going to get to you on time. The bell is brass and copper. Isn't that cool? And it's oxidized.
It's so cool. I
It's
love
beautiful.
it.
And it's got a double Dorji on the top, which I'll teach you about. That represents the 4 directions and also divine protection. So we thought that was a really neat option for the set. All right, you guys, congratulations. The schedule is Wednesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. The bonus class this month is January 20th. In February, it's the 13th. So each month the bonus class will be on a different date. Then we have quarterly Elder Council, and then I'll be live in the Living Magic group every week at a different day and time as my inspiration strikes. So there's a lot of meat. And then there's 2 Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for the Living Magic program, and then there's a Facebook group called, and these are not open yet, but they will be right after New Year's Day, called The Living Room, which is for people who are in the Crystalpedia class or the Living Astrology class. But members of Living Magic can automatically add themselves to it. There's a cool feature on Facebook now where If you want to be in the second group, you can add yourself, which is pretty cool. Tools are not sold out. No, they're still available. And I think Karen linked to them, so you can find your tools. You can always go to sagegoddess.com/livingmagic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you'll find the registration, and then you can adjust and make modifications to your payment plan or method or anything in your on your My Account details on sagegoddess.com. I believe Elder Council is in February.
The first Elder Council is in March.
Oh, in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we just did one in December. So then March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and then October, November, December. Yeah. Yeah, March, because it's quarterly.
Yes, we usually do it in October instead of September. That's just something we've
because
done
of
the
Denver.
last couple years. Yeah.
Because of Denver.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget, Living Magic is where all of the Tucson craziness
Yes. And
is going to be happening. I will be jumping into the living room too, but primarily all the behind the scenes. And I'm going to be in Tucson for a week and a half this year. So remember, that's all happening in January too. Hold on to your cutie pie hat. You're welcome. All right, you guys. So have a great rest of your evening. Take good care of yourself. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for being here as always. Stay tuned if you are continuing for Astrology 101, which is the free class from me and Tara. And I think that's everything I have to tell you for today.
Yes, and that class will be pre-recorded.
Yeah, it's pre-recorded.
Yes, so it'll be in your Living Magic homepage when that goes up on. Everything's going live January 3rd.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right, y'all. We love you.
Love you guys. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We're so proud of you. Thank you for being part of this experience this year. You made it. You made it. And you made it special for me. And I love you, and I thank you for it. We'll see you.